On February 21st, 2009, a mother and her daughter were in Hyugo Prefecture at Jinta Temple. Her house is an old temple with its own history and traditions. But to be honest, it was unpleasant for Miyako, so she took off the crown. Shirayuki asked the guy to call her by her first name again because she really liked it. Jinto thought about how her childhood friend Shirayuki had to change her name to Hokuya 3 years ago. The previous Itsukihime, Yokaze, who was eaten by the demon, was Shirayuki's mother. Moreover, her father was the protector of the temple attendant at that time, and he had to sacrifice his life to seal the demon. After the death of her parents, it was decided that she would become the next Itsukihime. Junto himself swore that he would become the protector of the temple attendant. The princess lay down on the floor, and Gento asked the girl what was wrong with her. Shirayuki asked the guy that she was no good at Itsukihime. She always relies on Jinto. The guy thought about it and asked the girl what was wrong with a servant relying on her protector. The guy wanted to say something else, but he didn't. The princess asked Jinto what he wanted to tell her, but the guy asked the girl to forget about it. Jinto became the protector of a temple attendant, just to protect Hokuya, but the guy knew that he couldn't do it. Shirayuki realized that Jinto was thinking about something. The princess patted the guy's hair again and said that it was not good. She asked the guy again to tell her what he wanted. Jinto only said that he was a year older than her. Her mother replied to the girl that she thought she would be surprised how interesting traditions could be. Shirayuki replied to the guy that she was more mature, so she was his little sister. The guy was very surprised by the princess's words that she was more mature. Jinto told the girl that she had caused trouble for her parents by saying that she also wanted to become a protector. She almost drowned trying to catch fish in the river. And she also got lost with Suzune in the forest one day and started crying. Jinto asked the princess what she was saying, that she was more mature. Shirayuki said that if we talk about Suzune, she's here too. This surprised the guy very much. Jinto asked the girl if it wasn't forbidden to enter the temple freely. Shirayuki replied that, to be honest, she didn't know how she got in, and there was someone outside. Shirayuki opened the curtain and told Jinto that he had been gone for 2 days after all. The girl said it looked like she wanted to see Jinto as soon as possible. The girl was sleeping sweetly, and Jinto thought she was so small. Suddenly, the girl opened her eyes and saw a guy in front of her. She greeted Jinto joyfully. The girl wished him a good morning. Suzune told the guy that she was glad he was back. This interested Miyako. Jinto stroked the girl and said that yes, he was already at home. Shirayuki told Jinto that no matter what he said, he couldn't beat Suzune. Jinto turned to Suzune and asked him to listen. The guy asked how many times he was told that it was forbidden to enter the temple. Suzune replied that her brother always comes there. Jinto replied that he was only passing because it was his duty. But the girl said he was lying. Suzune said that he just wants to be closer to the princess because he loves her. But immediately Jinto covered the girl's mouth so that she would not say anything superfluous. Jinto got angry and he told Suzune not to come there anymore anyway. Suzune agreed with the guy. Suzune told the princess that her brother was so easily embarrassed, and Shirayuki agreed with her. Suzune asked Jinto what else they could do with him. The guy was very outraged by this. Mom told her daughter that for now she needs to go get ready for dinner. Miyako decided that she could clean up while she was there. Suzune imagined the couple for a second. Jinto looked at Suzune and asked her what happened to her and why she was looking at them like that. But Suzune smiled at the guys and abruptly ran away from them. The girl said she had to go for now. She asked Jinto not to worry, because she knows the secret way. This surprised Jinto and Shirayuki a lot. Jinto thought that there was a secret path there. Shirayuki asked the guy that Suzune was a good kid. Jinto replied that he was probably too worried about her. Jinto looked after Suzune and the princess noticed it. Shirayuki asked the guy if there was something wrong with him. Jinto apologized to the girl and said that no, everything was fine. Shirayuki smiled sweetly and said that he always gets things rough. At that moment, Shirayuki and Jinto heard that someone was coming towards them, while Miyako was sweeping the floor. She remembered that she had once thought that all these things of the past had nothing to do with her. It was the head who asked the princess if he could come in. Shirayuki immediately hid, and she asked the head that something had happened to him. The old man replied that he did not, but he would like to continue their previous discussion. Jinto thought about it, because he was interested. Shirayuki agreed to continue the conversation with the head. The old man turned to Jinto and asked him if he could wait outside for a while. Jinto wanted to be outraged by this, But Shirayuki told the guy that everything was fine, and she asked him to come out. Jinto bowed his head and replied that he understood her. The guy headed towards the exit, but then Shirayuki called out to him. She asked the guy to keep protecting Kadono. Jinto replied to the girl that yes, he would do what the protector of the temple attendant should do. Miyaka heard footsteps coming right towards her, and so the head was left alone with Shirayuki. The old man said that it was also for the good of the village. He asked the princess if she could think about it. Think about the princess's wedding ceremony. At this moment, someone was watching the temple from afar. It was the girl who was sitting on the shoulder of the demon, and she said that now she understood how it all started. Meanwhile, Suzuna had a dream that the weather was bad outside and she was at home. Suddenly, the girl received a powerful blow to the face from her own father. From such a strong blow, Suzune fell to the floor. Her father was standing over her and the girl asked him for forgiveness. But the father grabbed the girl by the hair again and said that she should be silent. A father called his daughter a vile monster. And if she hadn't been born, then everything would have been different. Suzune cried at the way her family was treating her. The man got very angry and said that he had had enough. The girl turned around and saw that a guy who was wearing her school uniform was walking towards her. He grabbed Suzune by the scruff of the neck and dragged her to the exit of the house. The girl started screaming and saying no. She was asking him not to do it. The girl apologized to her father several more times, and she started screaming and asking someone for help. She tried to shout at her brother, but the girl couldn't do it. Her father threw her out of the house and threw her on the ground. The man told Suzuna not to dare to return home anymore. This upset the girl very much. Suzune reached out to her father, and she tried to ask her father for forgiveness once more, but he told her to leave. Suddenly, the man apologized to his daughter and said that, to tell the truth, he always just wanted to kill her, so he told the girl to be grateful to him for not doing it. Suzune couldn't believe it. The man closed the door right in front of the girl, and she was left sitting alone on the ground in the pouring rain. At that moment, Jinto called out to Suzune and asked her to wake up. The girl opened her eyes and wished her brother a good morning. Jinto said that breakfast was ready so she could get up. Miyaka noticed that there was something in his hands. Suzune relaxed slightly after she woke up. After all, the girl realized that it was just a dream, and now she's safe next to her brother. Suzune packed up and went to Jinto's table. The girl asked her brother if he was going somewhere today. The guy replied that yes, he needed to be at the temple today. Suzune laughed a little and said she was glad about it. Suddenly, the guy looked at her carefully, because he saw something. The guy turned to Suzuna and said that her bandages were slightly loose. Jinto immediately turned away from her, and Suzune began to adjust the bandages. A few years before, Jinto had been running down the road, splashing through puddles. He ran very fast to find Suzune in time. Jinto stood up and tried to shout at the girl. The guy realized that his business was bad, and he needed to keep looking for her. He ran behind the house and saw that Suzune was standing there. The guy immediately ran up to the girl. But Suzune was very sad, and even meeting her beloved brother did not make her happy. Suzune's blindfold had fallen off and Jinto saw her white eye. Suddenly, the girl realized that this guy had approached her. The young man told the girl that he wanted to ask her something. Jinto rolled his eyes when he saw that the blindfold had slipped off the girl's face. He realized that the girl had a devilish eye. 13 years ago, Jinto and Suzune left their home in Edo and were sheltered by Shirayuki's father, Motoharu. Meanwhile, when Suzuki adjusted the bandage, she asked the guy if everything was okay now. Jinto looked at her and replied that yes, everything was fine now. Suzuka turned 17 this year. Her unchanging appearance and hidden right eye, Asok. Based on all this, it should already be clear. But no one in Kadono says anything about it. Jinto thought that even the noisy Kayomasa was not speaking. Jinto told the girl that they were really lucky to be sheltered. Susan replied to the guy that she was just happy to be with her brother. The guy laughed and replied that she knows what to say. Suzune said that although her brother would rather be with the princess, Jinto almost choked on it and asked Suzune what she was saying. The girl asked her brother that he wanted to marry the princess. The guy asked Miyaki that she was a servant at the temple. The girl replied that yes, but she immediately changed her answer, saying that she meant that she was Itsukihime. The guy thought about it and Suzune waited hopefully for an answer from the guy. Jinto said that he really thinks fondly of Shirayuki. Suzune was happy about this and said that she knew it. Jinto said that at the same time, he respects Hokulia just as much. Suzune was slightly surprised by this. Jinto asked Suzune that if he said that he liked Shirayuki, "Who is Hokuya?" Then she would understand. Suzune replied that it still meant that he wanted to marry her. But Gento didn't answer the girl anymore. At that moment, someone came up to their house. Jinto turned around and saw that it was Kiyomasa who had called the guy to talk. Jinto came to the exit of the house, and he asked Kiyomasa what he had forgotten there. The guy apologized to Jinto for distracting him. The daughter suggested to her mother that they finish, because this outfit doesn't suit her anyway. The guy was surprised by her answer. The girl replied to the young man that she did not know much about it herself. But it seems that in the Jinta temple, the maids have been called that for several years. Kiyomasa told Jinto that he needed to kill the dragon. The guy told me that he was seen in the Forbidden Forest. Chitos went there this morning to collect herbs. The girl said that she saw someone very large. Jinto replied to Kiyomasa that he understood him. He's going to go there right now and find out everything. Kiyomasa replied that, okay, he needed to go back to the temple. Kiyomasa remembered that he needed to convey something. He asked the guy to catch it. Jinto caught a small bundle, and he asked Kiyomasa what it was. The guy replied that it was manju. He bought it from a passing merchant. Jinto thought about it. Kiyomasa said that he didn't buy it for him, but for Suzune. Still, she doesn't leave the house very often. This surprised Jinto. Jinto apologized to the guy for bothering him and thanked him. Kiyomasa said that everything was fine. He just wanted to ask her to give it to Suzune. The guy was very surprised by this, and he asked the girl what she had just said. Miyaka replied that this place was a Jinta temple. It's probably a bit of a strange name. Jinto asked the guy why he was worried about Suzune. Kiyomasa said that even if he did, Jinto wouldn't understand. The guy looked questioningly after Kiyomasa. Jinto returned to the house and handed the gift to the girl from Kiyomasa, as he promised. The guy turned to Suzune. He apologized to her and said he would come back to her later. Suzune replied with a smile that everything was fine. It's his responsibility. The girl asked her brother to be careful and take care of himself, and Jinto agreed with her. Suzune saw her brother off, but still, sadness appeared on her face. Meanwhile, Jinto was already in the forest with Chitos. He turned to Chitos and said that she had gone so far into the forest in order to collect herbs. The girl replied that only in this wilderness there are no weeds. Jinto asked Chitos if it had been a long time. He remembers playing with Susan when they were younger, but the girl did not answer the guy, and he asked Chitos if everything was okay. Suddenly, tears appeared on the guy's face. This surprised the girl very much, and she asked what was wrong with him. The girl immediately replied that yes, everything was fine. She was glad that Jinto was doing well too. Jinto asked Chitos not to call him that officially, but the girl was very confused by this. The guy said that it was very difficult to behave formally. It was unacceptable for him. Chitos replied that Jinto was now the great protector of the temple, so she couldn't do anything else. The guy thought about it and replied that everything was clear. The guy stopped and Chitos told the guy that it was right across the stream. Chitos' face showed that she was very worried. Jinto thanked the girl for seeing him off, but the guy said she didn't have to go any further with him. Therefore, it was better for her to return before it got dark. Chitos realized that she really needed to get out of there, so the girl agreed with the guy. She apologized to Jinto and set off on her way back. The guy asked the girl that something was wrong. The guy bowed his head in front of the girl. He thanked Miyaku for everything and apologized to her, but the girl was very surprised by this. Chinos asked the guy if everything was okay with Suzune. Jinto replied that yes, she was still the same Sonia as always. Chitos smiled sweetly and said it was great. Then she'll go back. Jinto remembered how Chitos came to their house a few years ago and asked the guy if Suzune was at home. Suzune heard this and ran to Chitos herself. The girl told her brother that she was going with Chitos today, so she asked Jinto not to go with her. Chitos and Suzune said goodbye to the guy and ran away to play. Jinto wondered when it happened that they stopped playing together. A few years later, when the girls continued to play with each other, Chitos asked Suzune what she thought, or was she not growing up? Jinto was definitely sure that Suzune did not want to lose her very first friend, so she decided to purposefully keep her distance from her. While Jinto was looking at Chitos' trail, something happened. Miyaka asked the guy that didn't he want to ask her something, but the young man replied that he had already received his answer. A huge hand shot straight towards the guy. It was a demon that struck the place where Jinto was standing. Chitos heard a very loud sound and was afraid for the guy. Jinto jumped aside and looked at the monster seriously. The demon turned to Jinto and said that he thought he could catch him. Jinto asked the demon what the monster was doing in this place in the middle of the day. The demon replied that monsters that can only be active at night are just pathetic scum. For the elite, it doesn't matter if it's day or night. Jinto asked the monster what he was saying, that he was one of the elite. The guy didn't think demons had a concept of privilege. The demon thought about it and replied that they were at least more reasonable than the guy who brought a girl with him in search of a demon. Jinto definitely became convinced that he was watching them. The guy told the demon that he had missed a great opportunity. This made the monster laugh. Miyaka had already told him what he wanted to know. At the same moment, the demon got angry and said that he was not one of those who could stoop so low. This strained Jinto, and the guy realized that he was dangerous. Jinto told the demon that since he was so reasonable, he would tell him this. Jinto grabbed his sword and said that their territory was already beginning, so the demon needed to leave. The monster tilted his head to the side and asked Jinto what he thought. He would listen to him. Jinto replied that he then forced the monster to do it by force. Jinto jumped up from his seat at the same moment and took out his sword. The demon crossed his arms in front of him and told Jinto that it was so wise. Jinto rushed straight towards the monster, and the demon jumped up. Jinto struck the demon's chest with his sword so that a wound was left on it. The demon told Jinto that, as expected, the sword from Kadono can cut even demons. Miyaka watched the boy go and thought that this was the first time she had seen a boy cry. The girl thought that the things of the past did not concern her. It wasn't bad for her. But Jinto asked him to shut up. This angered the monster, and he sharply struck at the guy. But he missed and hit a tree. This caused the tree to bend over and creak. Jinto thought about how the demon had done it with just one punch. A second delay means that it will be death, but the demon once again took a swing at the guy. Jinto managed to put his foot forward and dodge his kick. Jinto thought that it was his sword and the demon's hand. The demon knew that he would soon be finished. Suddenly, at this moment, another weapon appeared near the guys. The guy was very surprised and saw that the tree that the demon had hit began to fall. It fell right behind Jinto, but another weapon appeared next to the guy. But Miyaka was sure that the reason for these tears was that she served in this temple. A girl stood next to the demon and told him that time was up. She asked the monster if he realized that he was in a difficult position. Jinto immediately tensed up because another demon appeared next to him. The guy chuckled. The demon replied to the girl that he admits that she saved him, but these movements were like this guy wasn't human. Suddenly, the girl asked Jinto if his sister was Suzun, wasn't she? Being around one of their brethren for so long. It's possible that he's an even bigger demon than they can imagine. Jinto realized that he had to act. While the girl was distracted by the monster, the guy took off, but the demon noticed it. The monster managed to deflect another blow from the guy, and Jinto jumped aside. This started to annoy Jinto very much. The guy asked the girl what she was saying, that Suzun was one of them. This made the guy very angry, and he asked the girl to take back her words. Because this girl has nothing to do with demons. The girl mockingly said that she was so scared. The demon looked at the girl questioningly, and she told him that everything was fine. She had just confirmed it. The girl feels that he is very important to this place. After all, he has come a long way, more than 170 years long. The girl put her hand to her eye and said that her ability allows her to see the future. But this time, she just can't believe it. The girl did not understand how to say it correctly, but it was too ridiculous for her. The demon told the girl that he trusted her anyway. The girl told the demon that he worries about her all the time. The demon said it was pretty creepy. Suddenly, a weapon flew right in front of the monster's face again. Jinto aimed it directly at the girl, but she managed to defend herself. The girl told Jinto that he wasn't that strong when he got angry. Jinto asked the demons what their purpose was. It made them think. The demon replied that the future of all demons was their goal. At that moment, the girl beat off the guy, and he took a step back. She started yawning because their battle wasn't serious. The girl said, "Okay, they're done, and now they're coming back." The demon agreed with her, but Jinto had no plans to let them go. The guy thought that maybe he should be grateful and let them go. With two such strong ones at once. In 1849, on the outskirts of the village of Kadono, suddenly a demon turned to Jinto and said that their base was in a cave deep in the forest. Therefore, if he wants to, he can pursue them. Jinto asked the demon that then he would fall right into their trap. The demon replied that unlike humans, demons don't lie. The demons went deeper into the forest, but Jinto stayed where he was and thought about it. The guy realized that this was very bad. They are very strong. Jinto thought that if compared to the demons he had met before, they were on a completely different level, and even more so together. And they even looked like people in some way. Jinto still couldn't let go of the thought of what kind of eyes Suzune had under the bandage. But the guy tried to calm himself down and asked what he was thinking at all. Jinto said that Suzune is just Suzune, and nothing more. At that moment, the girl was sitting near the house and dangling her legs. She was very interested in how her brother was doing there. Suddenly, she noticed someone in the distance, but Mom told the girl not to say that. After all, even the length is perfect in this dress. A lonely guy was standing under a tree on a hill. Suzune saw that it was her brother. She was very glad he came home. A few years before that moment, suddenly and without warning, a demon appeared and attacked the temple. Then he killed Yokazi and swallowed her corpse. There were many wounds on Motoharu's body. He was breathing heavily and turned to Jinto. The man asked Jinto to promise him that he would curb this hatred. Motoharu asked the guy to take care of Shirayuki and Suzune. These were Motoharu's last words. After his return home, Jinto went to the temple and told the princess everything he had learned. Jinto said that the female demon spoke as if she had been to Kadono before. Unfortunately, he was unable to find out their intentions. He apologized to the princess for this. People began to say that these demons had definitely come for Yurai or for the princess, but the head said that their target is the princess. He asked her if they could reschedule their discussion for the morning. The girl did not respond to this. He had a gun with him. Jinto asked the head what they wanted to talk about. The head replied that it was nothing. They would just talk about how they should prepare if they were attacked. The head said, more importantly, Jinto informed them that they had set up camp somewhere. The old man asked the guy if it was true. Jinto replied that he had to reveal them. Everyone immediately started to talk the guy out of it. He's the best fighter in Kadono. Since they already know about the demon attack, then his duty is to protect the village. The men asked the guy what would happen to them if it all happened to them again. It was a surprise attack that took the lives of Yokazi and Motoharu. Although the villagers survived, it was only thanks to Motoharu. One of the men apologized to Jinto and said that they had put pressure on the patient. The guy replied that no, it's okay. He thanked the man for worrying about him. Everyone started discussing this situation and realized that none of the proposed options would work. At that moment, the head was thinking about what they should do. Suddenly, the guy heard someone call out to him and apologized for disturbing him. The head turned to the princess and asked her what she thought they should do. Everyone in the temple immediately fell silent and looked towards the princess. The girl asked everyone to think about it. She asked the employees what they thought about Gentoushou staying in the village for one day, and they would gather the village men to search the forbidden forest. Their enemies are the demons who were able to survive after encountering their great protector. Therefore, the temple guards will join the security search team. The old man asked everyone present if they agreed with this. Everyone immediately replied that yes, they completely agree. This is what they expected from the princess. Jinto thought about it and smiled. It took some time, and it was already dark outside. The princess asked the guy to come to her. Shirayuki told Jinto that he did a good job today. She asked the guy to sit down with her, because he was probably tired. Jinto sat down and said he didn't even know how she did it. The princess asked the guy what he was talking about. Jinto replied that that was exactly what he meant. A girl came up to the guy and asked him if he knew where the place called Kadono was. Shirayuki asked the guy what he thought about the demons he met today. The guy thought about it and replied that, to be honest, they are strong, but nothing he couldn't handle. Shirayuki replied that everything was clear. They don't seem to be a problem for him. Jinto replied that he had trained enough for such occasions. The princess replied that yes, she knows. She had been watching him all this time. They both remembered Jinto training with Motoharu while Shirayuki sat and watched them. Jinto told the girl that yes, she was right, and the princess giggled a little. Suddenly, the guy's gaze fell on the table of books. He took one of them and realized that it was quite rare. The princess said it was Kiyomasi. The guy thought about it. Shirayuki said she couldn't go outside, so he brought her books to pass the time. Jinto replied that he understood her. Itsukihime is not allowed to leave the temple. Jinto had never thought about it. Jinto looked at the book and wondered how he hadn't noticed this before. The girl smiled sweetly at the guy, and he replied that this was the name of the village in which he lives. Shirayuki told the guy that Kiyomasa told her that he also writes books. When she told him that she wanted to read them, he was embarrassed. His face was so red. Jinto wondered if he was really protecting Shirayuki, or if Kiyomasa was the only one protecting her. Shirayuki saw the guy's puzzled face, and she asked Jinto if he was okay. It seemed to her that he was thinking about something. The guy replied that everything was fine. He asked the princess not to worry. Shirayuki was a little surprised and smiled slightly at the guy. Suddenly, Shirayuki suggested that the guy have fun somewhere tomorrow. This surprised Shirayuki very much, and he asked the girl what she was talking about. Shirayuki said it had been a long time since they had been fishing on the Modori River. Or, they can go to the graves in the Forbidden Forest. And the girl also said that she wanted to eat something delicious. Jinto tried to stop the girl, but Shirayuki said that the Chito's family runs a tea shop, so it'd be great to go there and eat dango. And Shirayuki also suggested that the guy take a walk around the village too, because she hadn't been there for a long time. But Jinto stopped the girl anyway. The girl said she thought so. She asked the young man that if it was not difficult for him, he could accompany her to the village. Jinto told the princess that it seemed to him that he should ask her if she was okay. Shirayuki was upset by this. The girl turned away from the guy, but Jinto wanted to calm her down. Shirayuki said she was fine and he didn't have to worry. Suddenly, Jinto grabbed Shirayuki's hand and stopped her. The guy said that she always starts acting strangely when she hides something. Shirayuki realized that Jinto had figured her out, and the guy was waiting for the princess to confess to him. Shirayuki lowered her eyes and said that she should have told him this a long time ago. Jinto apologized to the girl and said that she didn't have to tell him anything if she didn't want to. The princess said no, she should thank him. She just wants to do it properly. After all, this is something very important. But the girl said that first she had a request for him. She wants to spend the whole day with him tomorrow. A few years ago, Jinto had a dream that Shirayuki told the guy that when she became Itsukihime, she would choose him as her protector. The girl asked the guy to promise that he would protect her. And so the next day came, and Shirayuki started waking the guy up. In response, the guy asked why she was going so far. The guy opened his eyes and he thought that Suzune had woken him up. He asked the girl if they were up too early. But it was Shirayuki who stood in front of him and wished him good morning. The guy was very tense when he saw the girl. Jinto abruptly stood up, and Shirayuki said that he was the same Sonya as before. But Jinto was shocked that Shirayuki was dressed like that. The princess asked the guy if it wasn't cute. The guy couldn't believe his eyes, and he asked the princess why she was at his house now. Shirayuki asked the guy if they hadn't agreed to spend the day together. The girl confessed that, as she promised, she ran away. The guy was very surprised by this. Shirayuki told the guy that everything was fine. No one remembers her face, so they won't recognize her. But Jinto told the girl that wasn't the problem. After all, demons are hunting her right now. Shirayuki asked the guy if it wasn't safer to be with Jinto right now. The guy was worried that the head might find out about it. The girl replied that her sister had married someone, and she decided to congratulate her personally. But the girl asked him not to worry about it, because the head already knows. This surprised the guy even more. The guy sat down at the table and Shirayuki asked Jinto if he had any more objections. The guy replied that she could not be persuaded, so they laughed and started eating. After breakfast, Suzune asked her brother and the princess to have fun. Jinto told the girl that she looked happier than usual. The girl replied that yes, of course. She said it was because her brother also looked happier than usual. Jinto asked the girl if it was true. Suzune replied to her brother that she did. She asked them to enjoy each other. Suzune waved to the guys, and the princess waved back. Suzune once again asked the guys to have fun. Meanwhile, they came to the center and Shirayuki said that so much time had passed. The guy asked the girl that if she was going to her sister, then they must be close. The people who saw Jinto were very surprised by his companion. The men asked the guy who the girl next to him was. Jinto replied that she was just an old acquaintance of his. Shirayuki greeted everyone. She said she hadn't been here for a long time, so she asked the guy to show her the Kadono. The men replied that everything was clear to them. They immediately called out to the rest of the people and told everyone to see what a beautiful girl their defender had. After all, Jinto was at that age now. The man immediately laughed and said that it could make Cheetos cry and the princess would be upset too. Shirayuki said goodbye to the men and Jinto was very tense. Shirayuki whispered in the guy's ear that those men said she was beautiful. The girl grabbed the guy's hand, but Jinto asked her to let go. Shirayuki replied that she didn't want to do that. Meanwhile, Jinto and the princess came to Cheetos. She was glad to see him back, but the girl was surprised to see another girl next to him. Jinto shared that this is an old acquaintance of his. Shirayuki told Chitos that they needed 10 sticks of denko, but Jinta replied that 2 would be enough for them. After a while, Chitos brought the guys their dishes and apologized for waiting. But Jinta was surprised when he saw another dish on the tray. Chitos told the guy that she remembered that he liked rice cakes. The girl smiled sweetly and replied that yes, she was very sweet, only a year younger than her. Jinto thanked the girl and said that he was very surprised that she remembered it. Chitos wished the guys a pleasant appetite and walked away. Shirayuki told the guy that even Chitos didn't recognize her. She tasted the dish and said it was so delicious. Jinto asked not to blame the girl. She had not seen her for a long time. Shirayuki said that yes, she knows that, but still. Shirayuki asked the guy if he thought Chitos was too nervous when talking to him. The guy agreed and replied that he was no longer Jinto for her, but just a great defender. Shirayuki said that everything was clear to her now. Jinto told the girl that he finally realized how hard she was going through. The girl asked the guy if he was telling the truth. Jinto said that everything will change over time. Motoharu often said things like that, but the only thing that doesn't change is what no longer exists. The guys thought about it and plunged into memories. Jinto and Shirayuki came to a house where there were a lot of people. The guy asked the princess if she would like to go there. Mom supported Miyaku, saying that she looked very good. But suddenly, the guy abruptly took out a weapon and hit the girl with it, from which she fell into a stupor. Shirayuki replied that no, she didn't want to distract them, so they could go. The guys walked past and suddenly Shirayuki giggled. Jinto said that she looked happy. He asked the princess if she liked to walk like this. The princess replied that yes, she was sure that her mother also wanted to protect Kadono at all costs. Shirayuki told the guy that she really likes places where iron is made, and to see how everyone works hard together. Jinto thought about how Shirayuki had always been like this. She wishes everyone happiness, as if this is the most obvious thing in this world. As the boys were walking, Shirayuki asked Jinto that they still needed to visit Mom and Dad. Jinto replied that yes, they could do it. Jinto thought that was why he sometimes worried. He worries that Shirayuki's happiness is sacrificing himself. The guy just wanted to address the girl, but then something stopped him. He remembered the words of Motohara, who in his last moments asked the guy to promise him that he would curb this hatred. This blow was devastating for the girl. The guy stretched out his hand to Shirayuki and thought about what Motohara had meant back then. The guy did not touch the girl and just squeezed her hand. But suddenly, Shirayuki grabbed the guy herself and told him to move because the day wouldn't last forever. Jinta replied that yes, he knows. The guys, holding hands, walked along the road. They stopped at one place and prayed and then went out onto the bridge. Jinto thought that he didn't know if he would one day understand how Motoharu felt or not. The guy sat down on a small hill and Shirayuki thanked Jinto for today. She had a lot of fun and the girl felt better. But still, Shirayuki was sorry that she had forced him to agree to her selfish request. Jinto replied to the girl that he was already used to it, and the girl was jokingly indignant. Jinto asked Shirayuki that she didn't want to tell him that she wasn't going back to the temple. Shirayuki replied to the guy that no, she didn't want to. While blood was dripping from the guy's weapon, he said that she had a perfect alibi and an attractive appearance. The girl said that after walking around Kadono today, she became more determined, and if it protects the village, then she doesn't mind staying locked up in a temple for hundreds more years. Jinto thought that she always wished everyone happiness, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. But suddenly, Shirayuki told Jinto that this was why she was going to marry Kiyomasa. These words surprised the guy very much. Shirayuki admitted that she wanted to say it here, where it all started. Jinto cringed and said that he understood her. He remembered the days when they were little and walked in this place. The girl said that yesterday morning the head came to her. He said that an heiress should be born if she suddenly dies at the hands of demons like her predecessor. The girl told Jinto that he did not come from Kadono, and therefore he could not marry her. Shirayuki said that Kiyomasa would eventually become the head. The head said that there is no better candidate for the future of the village. He said it was for the sake of the people of Kadono. However, the most important thing is her eye color, because it is red, which means that this is not a girl, but a demon, and Shirayuki herself admitted that she thinks the same way. Jinto wondered if it was for the sake of the people of Kadono. For their sake, she is ready to endure any injustice. The guy turned to the girl and looked at her. The girl said that she is Shirayuki right now, so she can tell him something. Shirayuki smiled sweetly and confessed that she loved him. Jinta was surprised, and the guy thought about what he knew. He always knew about it. Shirayuki told the guy that she was thinking about just running away with him. The girl wanted to run away with him far, far away and live a quiet, peaceful life together. She wanted to have a baby and become a mom and dad. She wanted to grow old with Jinta and enjoy happiness until the very end. But Shirayuki knew that he would not choose this path. At the same moment, the demon began to transform into its real form. Shirayuki looked at the guy, and Jinta looked at the girl. Jinta thought about how desperate he was that rainy night. But then he found a small piece of happiness. When Shirayuki told the guy that she would become Itsukihime, Jinta told her that then he would become the protector of the temple maid, someone who will protect her. Shirayuki was waiting for a response from the guy, but Jinta himself was very tense. He started to tremble from it. Suddenly, Jinta stood up abruptly, and Shirayuki looked at him in surprise. Jinta decided to admit to the girl that he loves her too. The princess was very surprised by this, but Jinta said he just couldn't leave this place. If he does that, he won't be able to be himself anymore. The guy said that her naive determination to become a Hokuya, despite the difficulties, whatever it takes, putting all her faith and dedication into this path. Jinta just couldn't figure out how he could resist it. Shirayuki touched the guy and said she knew it. She couldn't do that either. The demon called the guy a bastard and got very angry at him. Shirayuki said they were so similar. It put their lifestyle above their feelings for each other. But that's why the girl fell in love with him. The guy sat for a while and thought about their words. Shirayuki took the guy's hand and said that from now on, there is only Hokuya. She can't be Shirayuki. The guy agreed with her. Jinta said that he would just be the protector of the temple maid, and he would protect her. Shirayuki agreed with the guy. Jinta thought that her smile was so beautiful, and thanks to that smile, he was able to convince himself that he had made the right choice. At that moment, the search was underway for the very demon base that the monsters had told Jinta about. After a while, Jinta came to Shirayuki's temple. The princess told the guy that according to the latest report, the demon base had been discovered. The princess asked Jinta to exterminate the demons. The guy accepted this order. The princess also said that if the female demon attacks Kadono alone, Kiyomasa and the others will deal with her, so he can focus on doing his duty. Jinta replied that he understood her. At that moment, Kiyomasa was looking at the guy intently, but the guy immediately struck at the demon's body, decapitating it. When Jinta left the temple, Kiyomasa immediately approached him. He asked Jinta why he didn't say anything. Jinta asked Kiyomasa what he was talking about. In response, Jinta asked not to pretend to be a fool. He had heard about Hokuya and him. Jinta understood what the guy was talking about. He told him that it was the princess's decision, so he had already accepted it. Kiyomasa asked Jinta what he was thinking. He talks about peace and stability for both the princess and Kadono. Jinta replied to the guy that he would not stand in their way. It'll make him feel better. Kiyomasa immediately grabbed the guy and said that he was seriously going to marry Hokuya. Jinta calmly replied to him that he had already come to terms with it. But Kiyomasa couldn't stand it, and he swung his arm at the guy. Kiyomasa couldn't hit Jinta. The guy told Jinta that there was clearly something wrong with him, and Jinta agreed with that. He said he thought so too. Kiyomasa was very puzzled by this conversation, and when Jinta started to leave the guy, he asked him to take care of the princess. The monster's head fell to the ground, and the guy calmly put his weapon back in place. When Jinta returned home, a joyful Suzune was very happy to see her brother. The girl asked him if he was done with his duties for the day. Jinta replied that no, he still had things to do. The guy said he was going to pack up now and he would have to leave. Suzune was upset about this, and she asked her brother that he was leaving again. Suzune helped him prepare. The guy apologized to the girl for having to look after the house again. Suzune was very upset about this. Jinta promised that he would leave for a while. Suzune replied to her brother that he always says that, and then returns a few days later. Jinta sighed heavily. He patted the girl on the head and apologized to Suzune once again for that. He promised the girl that he would return home. Suzune decided to check with the guy that he really says that, and Jinta replied that yes, she could believe in her brother. Suzune took the guy's hand and told him that it was fine. She would be waiting for him. The guy headed down a small path, away from this place. The girl said that she was his younger sister. She would always be waiting here to meet him. Suddenly, the guys heard a huge raven cawing loudly near them. Suzune was a little scared and asked Jinto what it was. The guy asked the girl not to pay attention to it. When the crow flew away, Jinto told Suzune that he was going. The girl agreed and asked her brother to take care of himself. They waved to each other, and Jinto went on a mission. The guy thought that Suzune had never made such a face before. And for some reason, he felt uneasy. Jinto went to the forest. He made his way through many thickets to finally find the demon base. Jinto thought that they really just talked about their base without any tricks. To him, these demons were really strange. Jinto wondered if they could have headed to Kadono after he left. The guy decided that he didn't. Even if that's the case, Kiyomasa and the others will delay them. He'll be back in time. Meanwhile, near the big fire, the blacksmiths were doing their work. Suddenly, in the depths of the lair, he saw a light. It was a demon that stood near the torches. He told Jinto that he had come to them after all. Jinto asked the monster that he was the only one here. The demon replied that the girl had gone to Kadono. Jinto replied that he understood everything. The demon told the guy that he was surprisingly calm. Jinto asked not to underestimate the people of Kadono. They wouldn't lose to a demon like her. The demon said it wasn't good. In that case, he would rush to her aid. Jinto reminded the demon that he had told him not to underestimate people, and the guy immediately took off. Jinto rushed towards the demon with his sword, and the monster began to defend itself. Jinto managed to inflict a wound on the shoulder of the monster, but the demon's fist still flew past the guy's face, and he felt the pressure of the wind. The monster's huge fist crashed into the wall and destroyed it. Jinto decided to take advantage of the moment and attack the demon again. But Miyaka told her mom that she still feels awkward. She didn't know what her friends would say if they saw her in this. They were in the village of Kadono, where there were many small houses. I realized that he had opened up and he had a chance. Jinto swung his sword and slashed at the monster's arm. The demon's arm flew off, and Jinto said that he was now starting on the head. But the demon told him that he would not allow it to be done. The monster struck again with a huge fist at the place where the guy was, but Jinto managed to jump back to a safe distance from the monster. The demon said he never hit the guy. The monster decided that he really wasn't human. Jinto replied that he didn't want to hear it from the demon. The guy thought that he was a corpse after all, if he got even one hit from such a huge demon. Jinto looked at the monster's bleeding hand and thought that he shouldn't relax. The demon won't die from losing an arm. He must remember that demons always have an advantage. Jinto regained his strength and caught his breath. He abruptly headed towards the demon, but the monster decided to hit him. The guy managed to dodge. At that moment, the demon received a sword strike from the guy again. The demon swung at the guy with his foot, but Jinto managed to dodge him. The demon did not give up trying to destroy the guy. The guy went up the stairs straight to the temple. Jinto stabbed the demon with his sword, but he managed to put out his hands. The monster told the guy that people are so interesting. The demon was able to defend itself from the guy's blow. He said that demons have been living for more than 1,000 years. He had already lived a lot himself, but he had never experienced anything more entertaining than a sense of superiority over people. Jinto asked him to be quiet. The demon replied that despite their physical weakness, they overcome it by honing their skills, just like him. This is how they survive battles with demons and even defeat them. Jinto was able to dodge the demon's blow, and the monster said that people ignore the laws of nature, as if this is how it should be. The demon said that people are so interesting, so he wants to ask him something. The monster asked for what purpose he was drawing his blade. This question surprised the guy. The demon asked him why he needed power outside the laws of nature. Jinto was sure there was nothing to think about, because it was pure instinct. The guy replied to the demon that it was for the good of others. He fights only to protect those he is supposed to protect. He went inside, where the others were already waiting for him. The demon said that was why he was willing to bear this burden, even if it eventually crushed him. The monster laughed viciously in the guy's face. The demon said that he understood everything. That was the answer he should have expected from a human. Jinto asked the monster why he hates people. The demon thought about it and replied that it was probably just because he was a demon. Jinto asked the monster what he meant by saying that the nature of demons is to kill people. The demon replied that this was not true. He said that the nature of demons is to continue to exist only for themselves and nothing else. Always live life to the fullest. If the demon decides to do something at all costs, then he will die for it. That's what a demon is. The monster said that he had decided what he had to do here now, and therefore that he is acting, and he will not back down. Jinta asked the monster that he couldn't change his mind. The demon replied that if he could, he would not be called a demon. Jinta replied that he understood everything. In this case, he will not restrain himself. The demon told him that it was not necessary. Suddenly, the demon began to change right in front of the guy's eyes. His only arm had grown to an incredible size, and Jinta said it was a cute trick. The princess told the guy that he had killed this demon was all his nobility. The demon told him that you could say that. It's just a little trick. They, demons, usually awaken a unique ability after they have lived for 100 years. Although there are also those who have them from birth, or awaken them after some couple of decades. Jinta asked the demon that this was his ability. But the demon replied that this was not entirely true. He said that his ability is assimilation. It allows him to absorb other living creatures, which is not particularly useful during a battle. However, if he absorbs another demon, then he will receive its ability. The monster said that this hand is the ability of the demon he devoured. It is called the higher power. Jinta replied to the demon that he definitely talks a lot. The guy asked why he was specifically revealing his ability. The demon replied that there was no point. He may consider it a parting act. Jinta became very interested in what this demon was up to. The monster asked the guy not to worry about it. Jinta was absolutely sure that he would not be able to dodge his hand. The guy told the monster that he was right. It doesn't matter. Whatever he was going to do, the guy would stop him. Jinta was sure that he would finish him off with one blow. But the demon just grinned. She was glad that she was being served by a man who was not afraid of evil spirits and demons. And so, under the crackle of the torch, they rushed towards each other. Jinta was very tense because the demon was moving too fast. He couldn't figure out if he would be able to deflect such a blow, and whether he would be able to retreat. Suddenly, the monster struck at the guy who cut off his arm. Jinta screamed, but thought there was nothing wrong with that because he was still alive. The demon attacked the guy again, but Jinta held out a sword in front of him, so the monster punched him. From such a blow, the guy's sword broke and flew away. But Jinta stuck out his hand and accurately caught a piece of the flying sword. He thrust it sharply right into the demon's chest. Blood immediately spurted out of the wound. The demon began to scream, and Jinta tried to control his emotions. The guy's name was Jinta, and he was 18 years old. Jinta replied to the girl that he was just doing his duty as a defender of the temple employees. Meanwhile, Suzune continued to wait for her brother in the house. When she heard footsteps, the girl immediately rushed outside to meet him. But the girl's face changed when she saw the demon girl in the doorway, who greeted her joyfully. At that moment, the defenders of the village were watching from all sides so that no one could enter them. People asked each other not to go out and stay at home. Suzune also continued to wait for her brother. That rainy night, when Jinta found Suzune, he saw her untied bandage. The guy held out his hand to the girl to lead her. That night, Jinta helped Suzune. His hand became her salvation. But now the guy's hand was lying on the dirty ground in the devil's den. One of the men told Jinta that someone like him didn't need to be so humble. Even in all this, there is no one who can match Jinta in talent. Jinta continued to fight for his life. He understood that the monster was caught and the guy would be able to destroy it. The demon fell to his knees as his strength began to leave him. Jinta abruptly pulled the knife out of the monster's chest, and blood immediately gushed out. This caused the monster to fall to the ground. Jinta was trying to gather his strength and recover from the battle. The demon said that he stabbed him with a broken blade. It was not bad. Jinta replied to the monster that the guy was surprised that he could laugh at such a moment. The demon said it was true. However, he did what he had to do. He doesn't really care about death anymore. Jinta asked the demon what he was talking about. The monster said that the demon that was with him has the ability of foresight. It allows her to look into the distance, and he's not talking about distance. The guy replied to him that the talent of a simple wanderer like him does not go in comparison with the talent of the villagers of Kadono. She can see the future. She had two visions. The first is that the demon god will descend on these lands in 100 years, and the second is that whoever becomes him is in charge here right now. Jinta began to worry a lot. He thought of Suzune and realized that she was in danger. Jinta couldn't figure out how a female demon knew about Suzune. After all, the true target of the demons was the princess. The demon turned to the guy and asked him to accept this gift at parting. Suddenly, the severed arm of the demon pounced on the guy and began to strangle him. He fell to the ground and began to groan. Jinta thought that the left hand that he had cut off had attacked him. The demon reminded the guy that he said that he protects others with his sword. Then he asked to be allowed to ask again. The monster asked the guy that he had sworn to protect them. But if he had no reason to defend himself, then in whose direction would he point the blade? Jinta thought of Suzuna and the princess. His eyes began to roll up. The demon asked the guy why he was holding his sword. The man replied to Gentoushou so that he would not speak so badly about himself. Just like he can't forge swords, they can't defeat demons. At that moment, Suzuna was waiting for her brother. She thought that he was probably fighting and risking his life for the villagers and the princess right now. She knew it so well, and it's possible that he's really going to marry her. Suzune thought that if her brother got married, would he leave her? But the girl began to calm herself down and say that, of course not. But nothing would be the same as before. Suzune introduced the guy with the princess. She thought that maybe if she hadn't been his younger sister, then suddenly something would have changed. The girl imagined herself with Jinta, but then she realized what she was thinking and started waving her head to drive away her thoughts. Suzune thought it was so stupid. She couldn't understand how she could think of such a thing. She was his younger sister. Suzune began to calm herself down and say that everything was fine. As long as the guy is with her, she is happy. Suzune was fine with everything. The girl told the guy that she would always be his younger sister, so she asked him not to get married. Suzune wanted to be with him and remain his only one forever. Suzune wanted her to be the only one in the world where there is no princess. Suzune lowered her head, and her mood deteriorated very much. The other man laughed and said that was true. And another of the employees said that they would make as many swords as he needed, so Jinta didn't have to worry about it. She lay down on the floor and said she hated it. Suzune thought about Jinta again and said that if her brother was still unhappy, then it would be even worse. At that moment, Suzune heard someone's footsteps. The girl immediately ran to the entrance of the house and decided that her brother had come. But she met a demon at the door. The monster told Suzuna that she was glad to see them. Suzune saw her eyes and understood everything. She immediately hid behind the wall. The demon took a step into the house and said that in her vision she looked more like an adult woman, and she was so tiny. Suzune asked the demon who she was. The demon replied that the hell with it. After all, she has already lived for 100 years. The girl replied to Suzuna that as she sees it, she is a demon. She asked Suzu not to be afraid of her, because she is an ally. But Suzune didn't believe the girl. She replied to the demon that it was not true. He was still a human being. The demon replied that she was such a good girl she cared so much about her brother. Mom was touched by this and told her daughter that it suited her so well. She asked Miyaku to dress like this every day. Jinta sighed heavily, and the princess asked him what the demon looked like this time. As soon as Suzune heard the words about her brother, she immediately began to listen carefully to the demon. The demon asked Suzune that he was the reason she wanted to remain human. The fact that she considers herself a human being and the way her brother has been protecting her all this time. For a demon, this was highly commendable. Suzune looked out from behind the wall and agreed with the demon. The girl asked Suzune that she loved him after all. Suzune admitted that her brother is everything to her. The demon replied that she was so tiny, but still a woman. Suzune looked at the demon questioningly. The demon asked Suzune if she knew that there were people who wanted to harm her brother. Could she borrow her ability for him? Suzune hesitantly asked the demon what kind of ability she was talking about. The demon replied that yes, she was just asking her to go with her for a while. She asked Suzune not to worry, because demons don't lie. She promised Suzuna that she was safe. But the girl replied to the demon that she would not go with her. Suzune said that maybe she really wasn't in danger, but her brother might be. The demon replied that she understood everything. She asked Suzune what she would say to that. At the same moment, the demon brought her hand closer to the girl's head. The guy replied that the demon had taken the form of a woman this time and wanted to get into Kadono. Suzune saw the demon's abilities. A princess appeared in front of her and began to undress. But Suzune didn't understand why she was doing this. Suzune realized that the princess was with Kayamasa. This surprised the girl very much. Suddenly, the demon pushed Suzune away and she flew against the wall. The girl asked the demon what it had just been. The demon replied that it was her foresight ability. She saw the future. The demon said that she could partially transmit her visions to others. But Suzune replied that she had not asked for this to be done to her. Suzune started to tremble, and the demon told her that it was true. But Suzune replied that no, it wasn't. The demon asked Suzune that she didn't believe her. The demon held out her hand again and asked her if maybe they would go together and see for themselves. Suzune thought about it. The demon said they would do it for her brother's sake. Suzune couldn't make up her mind and figure out what she wanted. Everyone immediately exchanged glances with each other. But still, Suzune made a decision and extended her hand to the demon. The demon thought that if all monsters and people could be like Jinto and Suzune, then they wouldn't have to do such things and everything would be fine. Meanwhile, the princess was in her temple, and she couldn't find a place for herself. The girl was very worried about Jinto, and she really hoped that he would be okay. The princess's gaze fell on the blade that was lying on her desk. She took it, and the girl remembered some moments. The princess thought that Yarai was forged by the greatest blacksmith Kadono, the father of the first Itsukihime, O Wash Kaio. But she died before her husband finished it. The princess thought that stories about tragic love stories are eternal. At that moment, Kiyomasa came to the princess, who greeted the girl. The princess asked the guy that something had happened. Kiyomasa replied that no, everyone is protecting the temple now, so he became free. The old man thought about it and told Gento that it looked like his target was the princess. It's just an old legend, but they say that the fresh liver of a priestess is an elixir of immortality. The guy said that he was bored, so he thought that the princess would keep him company. The princess sighed heavily. The girl told the guy that he was like always. She asked Kiyomasa what they would do. She suggested that he read another book, but the guy replied to the girl that she had not guessed correctly. Kiyomasa grabbed the princess and took a few steps back. Kiyomasa asked the girl that when her future husband asks to keep her company, isn't it obvious what it means? The princess was very tense. Kiyomasa began to hold the girl's shoulders tightly enough. He approached her neck with his face to kiss the girl, but she did not like it. The princess told the guy to stop and stop doing it, but Kiyomasa couldn't stop and he started touching the girl in different places. The princess started screaming that now was absolutely not the time to do this. But Kiyomasa corrected the princess and said that she wanted to say that now is the right time for this. The guy said that the demons won't be able to defeat Jinto, so they have no problem worrying about him. Kiyomasa added that this guy always does a great job, so it would be rude if they didn't do their job well. The guy asked the girl if she felt the same way. The princess began to worry very much. Kiyomasa asked the princess if she hadn't expected something like this to happen at all. In fact, the previous Itsukihime Yokazi died from being eaten by a demon 8 years ago. Everyone tensed up after hearing this. The princess thought that everything was right. It was very obvious to her she knew, but still hoped for a different outcome. The princess kept asking the guy not to put pressure on her. She asked them to postpone this moment until they could make sure Jinto was okay and his life was not in danger. Kiyomasa asked the girl if she knew that the guy was doing this for Jinto. He told the girl that their intimacy was inevitable, but she was Itsukihime. The guards are always with her at all times and under all circumstances. The guy asked the princess who she thought would guard them while they were officially making love. The girl was very surprised by this question. The princess remembered Jinto's words that then he would become the protector of the temple maid, the person who would protect her. The princess sighed heavily, and the guy said he didn't mind if she wanted him to hear her moans. The guy asked if that would make them both even more aroused. These words finally brought the princess down. She wanted to hit Kiyomasa, but the guy managed to grab her hand. Kiyomasa said that's why he said that. Now is the time, as long as he's not around. As long as there's no need to stand guard. The guy said that if she succeeds, they will manage in one night. The girl was very scared by this. The princess added that they couldn't know for sure, but it meant that their target might be Yarai. Kiyomasa said that the decision was up to the girl. She should do as she knows. The princess looked at the guy and thought about what a fool she was. She thought she'd already made up her mind, that she was completely ready. But the truth is, she didn't know at all what she really needed to prepare for. The princess remembered Jinto calling her by her first name Shirayuki. She immediately made her decision. The girl turned to Kiyomasa and asked for his forgiveness. The girl said that although he was always kind to her, she took it for granted. And it hurt him. The guy sighed and replied that she had finally noticed it. He'll deal with his father somehow. At that moment, the princess began to slowly unbutton her clothes. When Kiyomasa saw this, he was very surprised. The girl began to undress. The princess told Kiyomasa that she was choosing this path for Kadono's sake. She shouldn't have tried to avoid it. a precious sword passed down from generation to generation by Itsukihime, Yurai. People say that its blade won't rust even after 1,000 years. The girl said that being Itsukihime, she should entrust her body to Kiyomasa. The guy started to get nervous and he asked the girl why they were both like that. But he couldn't finish and stopped. The princess asked the guy what he was talking about. But Kiyomasa replied that no, it's not like that. The girl wanted to support the guy, but then they heard someone's voice saying that it was great. As they say, at the right time, in the right place. The guys immediately looked towards the entrance to the temple. The guy saw that it was a demon. Kiyomasa said that this means that the target was actually Hokuya. He couldn't figure out what the guards were doing at the moment. The demon replied to the guy that this was not entirely true. Their target was Hokuya. The princess will die, but she is not the real reason for their stay. The demon said that it was good that they came before they started. After all, a child shouldn't see this kind of thing. The princess was very surprised because she did not understand which child the demon was talking about. The demon grabbed the weapon and she cut the screen. The old man told the girl that it might be possible, but he could be a demon jewel. The girl replied that yes, a female demon appeared right in front of the guys, and behind her was Suzune. The princess was very surprised when she saw her there. Demon and Suzune went to the guys to talk to them. Suzune was very upset by what had happened, and she asked the princess why she was doing this. The girl said that her brother is now fighting, risking his life. He is doing this for the sake of the people of Kadono, including the princess. Suzune once again asked the princess why all this was happening to her. Kokuya replied that this was because she was Itsukihime, so marrying Kiyomasa was her responsibility. Suzune was very surprised when she heard the princess's words. Kiyomasa was also very surprised at how Suzune was behaving. Suzune, with crazy eyes, asked the princess if this was a joke. While her brother is risking his life, flirting with another guy is much more important to her. But the princess emotionally replied that no, this is absolutely not the case. But Suzune's emotions were unstoppable. However, the old man said that the probability that their target is the princess is not going away. The girl told Hokuya that she thought she loved her brother, but now she sees that she will be fine with anyone else. The princess replied to the girl again that no, it wasn't like that at all. Suzune asked Hakuei why she was doing that then. Then why is Suzune herself suffering so much? The girl shouted that she had decided to endure everything if it would make him happy. It doesn't matter how much it hurts her. If the brother and the princess got married, she would wish them happiness from the bottom of her heart. Suzune started biting her lips until they bled and became very nervous. She told the princess that it would make him much happier. That was the only reason she tolerated it when someone else took his hand. But now, everything is completely different. The princess stared blankly at Suzune and couldn't figure out what to say to her. Haku imagined Jinta and how sweetly he was smiling at Suzune, and thought about how she hadn't noticed it before. After all, this girl had been feeling the same thing as herself all this time. Hakuei told Suzune that she had always pretended to be his sister. She didn't communicate with him as a girl, but as a younger sister. She always talked to him with an innocent smile for his own happiness. Suzune was trembling and she replied to the princess that she thought that if it was Hakuei, then she would be able to endure it. The princess understood all the pain that Suzune was experiencing. The old man said that for them, the villagers, Itsukihime is their support, and they can't afford to have people deprived of it. They should not take this matter lightly. The girl realized that she needed to apologize to her. But still, the princess said that she was Itsukihime. Kiyomasa tried to say something to the princess, but she interrupted him and told Suzune that there was no turning back. The girl said that she was a servant of the temple and had to live for Kadono's sake. This is the only way she can justify his feelings for her. Suzune stood in a stupor, even after all that she had said to the princess. Suzune couldn't tell if Hakuei was joking with her or not. She got even more angry after Hakuei's words and shouted to the princess that she had everything in her hands that she could only dream of then, and she would give it all up for no one knows who. Suzune couldn't understand how the princess dared to do this. The girl realized that she could no longer tolerate this and restrain her emotions. The girl began furiously to take off her bandage, tearing it on herself. Suzune's eyes were wild and she started laughing nervously. The girl asked the princess how much longer she would mock her. When will she finally get enough of it and stop doing that? Akwe was very scared when she saw the girl's eye after she took off the blindfold. Suzune told the princess not to even try to open her nasty mouth. The girl replied to her mother that she really did not understand why she so wanted her daughter to become a servant in the temple. All the men immediately tensed up. Akwe tried to run up to Suzuna, but Kiyomasa stopped her. At that moment, the demon decided to act and finish off Suzune. She went up to the girl and asked her if she saw that everything was happening exactly as she said. The princess turned out to be a very bad person. The demon whispered in her ear that she would do everything in their power for her brother's sake. Kiyomasa tried to stop the demon and ask Suzune not to listen to her, because she's only making it worse for all of them. The demon asked Suzune that she wouldn't forgive her anymore, would she? She would betray and hurt her and her beloved brother. This woman will undoubtedly live in bliss and without any worries. The demon was sure that Suzune could imagine it herself. However, her kind brother will continue to protect her. He won't even notice how they're mocking him behind his back. The demon whispered that this woman would continue to hurt her brother. She asked Suzune if she understood this. The demon said she could do it now for her brother's sake. Suzune asked what she could do for her brother. The old man said that as the head of the village, he only wanted to protect Kadono's future, and he asked for forgiveness for such words. The demon replied to the girl that if only it wasn't for this woman standing in front of her. In a world where there is no princess, suddenly, everything in the temple changed. Suzune turned into a huge black cloud that began to swirl all over the temple. A few seconds later, the black cloud turned into a tall girl with long hair. It was Suzune, who had already matured, and she was ready to act. The princess and Kiyomasa were very surprised by what happened to the girl, and who she turned into before their eyes. Hakyu turned to the girl who appeared and asked that she was Suzune. Suzune turned to the princess, and she asked her with devilish eyes that maybe she would die for her. The girl replied to the head that yes, they understand everything. One of the guys turned to his father and asked him not to worry about it so much. The guy said that the current Itsukihime has 2 defenders. The guy pointed a finger at himself. The old man called the guy Kiyomasa by name and wanted to tell him something. But the guy interrupted him and said that the truth was he could only keep him company. Kiyomasa said that only he knows how to wield a sword. And as everyone says, he is such a great defender of the saints. Still, there's nothing to fear from demons. The guy turned to Jinta and asked him if this was true. Jinta looked at the guy with a serious face and asked him what he was trying to say. Kiyomasa thought about it and replied that he recognized his skill. But he was a boring guy who didn't even understand jokes. Mom put a crown on Miyaku and said that she would become not just a maid, but Itsukihime. This is the duty of the women who were born in this temple. The guys looked at each other seriously, and the men tried to calm them down somehow. The princess turned to the children and asked them to stop behaving like that, because they are in the presence of the divine. The girl told Jinto that this was not like him. The guy bowed his head in front of the princess and apologized to her. The princess turned to Kiyomasa and asked him if he understood the girl. The guy indignantly asked her that he was too. The princess replied that he was special. The princess asked the guy that he was the same as always. Kiyomasa replied that he was the way he was and that couldn't be changed. The princess told Kiyomasa that one way or another, from now on he should try not to provoke a conflict. The guy replied that yes, he understood everything. The princess told everyone present that that was all for today. They could go back to their work. And everyone immediately went about their business. The princess, who was behind the screen, turned to Gento and asked him that he was the only one there. The guy replied that yes, everyone else had left this temple. The girl carefully went out to the guy, and Gento looked surprised. The girl was approaching the guy, and Gento asked the princess that something had happened. The princess approached the guy and looked into his eyes. Miyaka thought about it, but after a second, she grabbed his cheeks and began to pull at him. Gento couldn't figure out what the girl wanted from him. The princess asked Gento that she knew that she had already asked him that many times. But why was he talking to her like that? This question surprised the guy very much. Gento apologized to the girl and said that he had to take her situation into account. The guy looked down and said that she already needed to stop doing this. The princess was outraged by this and said that he called her that again. The girl asked if she hadn't told him not to call her that when no one was around. The princess said she understood why he didn't want it so much, but at least he could call her by her first name when they were alone. After all, he's the only one she lets call her by her first name, Shirayuki. Gento turned to Shirayuki and apologized to her. The guy said he hadn't thought about her feelings. The princess replied that it was okay, everything was fine. She should also apologize to the guys for being so selfish. Suzune began to walk slowly toward Shirayuka and Kiyomasa. Kiyomasa was still trying to hold on, but he was having a hard time. The demon girl told the guy that he was actually not as simple as she thought. Suzune was very sad, and she asked the guy what had happened. Jinto couldn't believe that it wasn't a demon standing in front of him. Jinto hesitantly asked the girl that she was Suzune, and the girl happily replied that yes, it is. The guy was shocked by this, and he asked Suzune if this was really the case. Suzune asked Jinto if it wasn't obvious. But Jinto had only one question. Why did she do it? The guy started to tremble from this situation, and he asked Suzune again why she had touched Shirayuka. Suzune was unhappy with the guy's behavior, and she asked Jinto why he had such an expression on his face. After all, she had killed the princess. He should have been happy. Jinto irritably asked Suzune what she was saying. The girl remembered that she hadn't told him the most important thing. Suzune told the guy that the princess was going to marry someone else. She lied about her feelings and betrayed him. But Jinto replied to the girl that no, she had not betrayed him. Jinto wanted to say something to the girl, but she interrupted him and said that the guy shouldn't worry about anything. She undressed and got ready to sleep with Kiyomasa while he risked his life there. But the girl was sure that the guy no longer had any chances. The demon grabbed the guy by the arm and started lifting him up. Suzune added that the princess is a terrible woman. But Jinto didn't like listening to it. He asked the girl to stop talking about the princess like that. This surprised Suzune, and she was upset by the guy's words. Jinto knew that everything was very bad. He put his hand to his face and began to worry a lot about it. It upset Suzune too. The girl shrank and said that her brother was suffering. She asked Jinto that he still loved the princess, despite such a terrible act on her part. The girl asked him if he was sad that she had died. At that moment, a voice appeared in Suzune's head, asking her to smile. Jinto looked at the girl and saw that she was happy. Suzune happily said that at least he wouldn't have to see the princess getting married to someone else anymore. Jinto was terrified of what was happening to him. Suzune asked the guy that, since he loves her, is it really better that she be with someone else? Now that the princess is dead, she won't be able to hurt him anymore. If you look at this situation from the other side, then he will be able to understand that he did not need the princess from the very beginning. The demon twisted the guy's arm so hard that he started screaming in pain. Suzune called Shirayuka a terrible woman again. Suzune turned to the door, and she asked Jinto that maybe they would go home. She's been tired all day. Jinto asked the girl what she was tired of. Suzune replied that today was full of minor troubles. Jinto was horrified that she had used such words to assess the situation they were in. Jinto asked the girl what she decided to call trouble, that they trampled on the Kadono people who raised them, as well as the fact that they killed Shirayuka. The Suzune calmly turned to the guy and asked him what was the point. Jinto remembered Suzune, who had been by his side until today. The guy said that now he realized that the Suzune he knew no longer exists. Suddenly, something happened to Jinto's hand. She started to change, and the guy noticed it. Suzune also saw that the guy's arm began to grow. Jinto was very surprised, and he asked what it was. Shirayuka was very worried about the guy and what the demon was doing to him. Jinto felt that he was hot and cold again. It was all randomly alternating. Jinto began to realize that not only his hand was changing, but also himself. Jinto looked at the surprised Suzune, who did not understand anything. And suddenly, Jinto had a feeling of hatred for the girl. Jinto immediately took off and headed towards the girl. He wanted to swing at Suzune, but his sword broke right into the air. Jinto was very surprised, and he realized that this was the work of Suzune. The guy's sword started spinning in the air, and Suzune asked the guy if he was okay. Jinto sat on his knees and tried to catch his breath. Jinto said he was a real wimp. He could not protect a woman he loved, lost his precious family. His native village was desecrated, and even the guy himself was trampled. Jinto told Suzune that there was nothing left for her. Jinto got to his feet, and Suzune noticed his hand. She began to grow in size, and the arm muscles became bigger and bigger. It was the same ability that the demon had used shortly before. The demon released Kiyomasa, and he tried to come to his senses. The girl took Yurai's weapon and tried to get it. Jinto turned to Suzune with hatred in his eyes and told the girl that he despised her. Suzune was very surprised by this. She couldn't tell Jinto anything. The guy started shaking, and he said no, he was wrong. He does have something. Jinto turned to Suzune, and the girl looked at the guy questioningly, waiting for what he would do. Suddenly, the girl's eyes changed, and fear appeared in them. Jinta remembered the demon's words that he had done what he had to do. Now it became clear to the guy what had started to happen to him. The guy thought that the goal was not to kill him, but to turn him into a demon. His last attack made him the same as himself. The guy said that it was so pathetic. But now he is grateful to him for leaving a parting gift. Gentoushou was without any weapons, so now he can use his hand. Suzune continued to look at the guy with fear in her eyes. Gentoushou said that he now has a higher power, but Suzune was very puzzled and she asked the guy what happened to him. Why did he become like this? Gentoushou looked at the girl with hatred, and Suzune didn't like it at all. She asked the guy why he was looking at her like that. The demon couldn't get it. It was very strange for the girl. Suzune began to walk carefully towards the guy and said that she just wanted to make her brother happy. Suzune confessed that she decided to do this by killing a terrible woman. In response, Jinta asked the girl to shut up. Suzune stretched out a trembling hand towards the guy, hoping that he would support her. But the whole world collapsed when Suzune did not feel the support in response from the guy. Tears appeared in the girl's eyes, and her face began to tremble with pity. The girl said that everything was clear to her now. As a result, even her beloved brother abandoned her at the last moment. The girl was upset and said that she thought Jinta was the only person who would be on her side. But Gentoushou stood his ground. He despised the girl and what she had done. Suzune's nerve gave way, and the girl shouted that then she didn't need anything anymore. She doesn't believe in anything in this world anymore. The girl shouted that even if her brother was against her, then this world no longer had any value for her. The demon suggested that apparently only the chosen one can pull out a sword. Suzune began to turn into a real demon, and Gentoushou stood and calmly watched it. The girl's face also changed, and she shouted to the guy that she no longer needed him. Gentoushou realized that Suzune was preparing to attack. Suddenly, the guy noticed that Suzune had abruptly disappeared from her place. This made Gentoushou tense. The guy saw that Suzune began to move very quickly from place to place, and this began to worry the guy a lot. Suzune headed straight towards Gentoushou. She swung at the guy with her hand and hit him in the face with her nails. There was a wound on Gentoushou's cheek, and the guy thought that even though he was a demon now, he could still barely follow her sharp movements. Suzune stopped and sat down on the floor. The demon asked the guy if he understood how it would all end. Gentoushou didn't answer her. Suzune told the guy that now his life would not be wasted. Gentoushou replied to the girl that he had already told her to shut up. This angered the girl even more, and she bared her teeth. Suzune replied to the guy that, okay, she can do as she knows. The girl handed it to Suzune and told her to try it. Suzune took the weapon without hesitation. Suzune abruptly took off again and ran towards Gentoushou. She ran around the guy slightly and swung her nails at him. Gentoushou tried to dodge at the last moment, but still Suzune grazed his chest with her nails. He was left with a wound from the girl's attack. Gentoushou thought it was very bad. The guy knew for sure that there was going to be another blow from the demon. But since he is in such an unfavorable position, he simply will not have time to dodge it. And after a moment, Suzune abruptly hit the guy right in the stomach. Gentoushou wheezed and said that demons are really strong. Suzune noticed this but did not respond. Gentoushou gathered his thoughts and screamed with all his might. Suzune was slightly surprised and wary of this. The guy had a huge hand again and he pointed it at the demon. The demon told Suzune that maybe she would use it now. If her visions are true, then she can get a sword. They looked into each other's eyes and Jinta realized that Suzune was slightly wary, but he still hit the demon with a huge fist. At that moment, memories appeared in the guy's head. As Shirayuka asked Gentoushou that he simply could not be a strict person when it came to Suzune. The guy was slightly outraged by this. He replied to the princess that he could get mad at her whenever he wanted to. Suzune told the guy that if that was the case, then he could try to hit her on the head. Gentoushou was slightly surprised and tensed, but Suzune replied to the guy that it was all right. He could do it. Gentoushou did not refuse the girl, brought his fists closer to her, but after that he just ruffled her hair. Meanwhile, Gentoushou managed to push Suzune back. The girl broke the wall and fell to the floor. But despite the serious blow, the girl got back on her feet and looked at the guy, who was very surprised by this. Gentoushou remembered that, yes, she was a demon. To kill her, he must decapitate her, pierce her heart, or smash her head to pieces. The demon asked Suzune if she didn't think the princess would be only too happy to die by the sword. She's been honoring him so much all this time. Gentoushou clenched a huge fist and said that if so, they would repeat it. The guy ran up to the girl. His fist was already very close to her face. Gentou's fist entered something, but it wasn't Susan's body. The demon girl turned out to be in front of the guy, and she apologized to Jinta for constantly interfering with him. But the girl said she couldn't just let her be killed. Jinta was very surprised by her appearance. But the guy's fist remained in the demon's body. Suddenly, Jinta noticed that his huge hand began to shrink in size. The guy noticed this, and he realized that his strength was also gradually going away. The demon girl touched Suzuna, and she asked her to run away. The girl asked that she didn't like all this. She wants everything to be destroyed. Then she needs to leave right now and start healing her wounds. The girl said that a unique ability that awakens after 100 years is now dormant inside her too. The demon said that this destructive force is waiting until it wakes her up. Suddenly, Suzune sharply kicked right at the guy. Suzune looked at the princess and thought about it. Suzune walked past the guys and headed towards the exit of the temple. Jinto tried to stop her, but the guy couldn't do it. A demon grabbed Jinto's big hand. She stopped the guy from talking too much. Suzune also took Shirayuki's head with her. Suzune was very sad about the situation. The girl told the guy that his hand was everything to him. Finally, Suzune told Jinto that she hated him. He was the meaning of her life, so she would destroy everything around her. Suzune planned to destroy people, nations, everything that exists on this planet. She'll get rid of it all, because otherwise she won't be able to go anywhere at all. Suzune turned to the guy, and tears appeared in her eyes. The girl told Jinto not to forget. No matter how much time passes, she will meet him again. Jinto was very serious. He thought about the girl's words. Suzune left the temple and the guy watched her go. The demon took Kiyomasa, lifted him on her shoulder, and said that she would go and get rid of this boy anyway. The demon told Suzuna that she was leaving them alone. At that moment, the demon fell to the ground and she began to laugh hysterically. The demon said that her job was done, they got everything they wanted. She had done her duty. Jinto looked at the princess's body and called the demon a creature. He asked her about what she said, that it was her duty. Something so ridiculous. The demon laughed again and said that it was true. She apologized to Jinto. The demon said she understood how he felt, but there was nothing she could do about it. The demon reminded her that her ability was to foresee, and she knew all this. Now this nation will accept a foreign culture and begin to develop rapidly. With artificial light, even on moonless nights, people are brightly illuminated. But the passage of time is too fast for them, the demons, to keep up with it. The demons will disappear and fall into myths and legends. This does not suit her. Therefore, she refuses to sit quietly and be banished. The demon said that she had seen it in 170 years. Suzune would become the main disaster that could destroy this world. Shirayuka watched with fear in her eyes as Suzune held a sword in her hands. The girl turned to Jinto and said that after going through a long journey, he would meet her. They, like brother and sister, will once again try to kill each other on Kadono land. And then a lord will be born, ruling eternal darkness. This will be their revered, beloved demon god. And then Jinto remembered the words of the demon in the lair, that whoever becomes him is in charge here and right now. Jinto thought that this was why they wanted to awaken the demon in Suzone and plot to make him one of them. Suzone will become a demon god, and his body will be offered as a sacrifice. Jinto realized that everything had happened exactly as the demons wanted it to. The demon said it was only natural that he hated them. But in the distant future, the demon god will protect them. Thus, they no longer need to be afraid of artificial light. That's why she's fine now. The girl was able to protect the future of her brothers. Jinto was in a stupor. The guy just wanted to answer her, but Jinto saw that the girl's body had disappeared. Jinto wanted to reach the girl's body, but he didn't have time and just clenched his hand into a fist. The guy was wondering who the demons were. If their story is true, then they simply sacrificed their own lives and the bodies of a number of their own kind. And suddenly, Suzune managed to get a sword the first time. The guy asked that in that case, is there any difference at all between humans and demons? Jinto wondered how many demons he had killed, thinking they were destroyed creatures in all that time. Jinto looked at his hands and remembered those bodies of people who were lying on the street in front of the temple. The guy looked at Shirayuki's body, which was left lying decapitated. The guy walked up to the girl with the last of his strength and pulled the sword out of her. He squeezed the girl as hard as he could. The guy couldn't contain his emotions. He began to cry and worry about the girl. At some point, the guy's emotions went off the scale, and he screamed with all his might. Morning came. Shirayuka turned to the guy and wished him a good morning. Jinto tried to open his eyes, and he saw the girl's contented face. He also wished her a good morning in return. Jinto shared with the girl that he still can't get used to the fact that as soon as he wakes up, he immediately sees her face. Shirayuka asked the guy why he thought that. Isn't that normal for newlyweds? Crazy eyes immediately appeared on the girl's face, and Shirayuka became even more afraid of her. Jinto replied to the girl that yes, she was right about that. That's right. It's quite normal. Shirayuka smiled sweetly at the guy. The girl asked Jinto that something had happened to him. The guy replied that no, he just had a dream. Shirayuka asked the guy that it was a dream. The guy replied that he had a nightmare. This made Shirayuka tense. The guy said that he dreamed that Shirayuka had disappeared somewhere. The girl took the guy by the hand and asked him if it was a terrible dream. Jinto replied that yes, for him it is. The guy let out a tear and said that for him this is the most terrible thing that can happen in his life. Shirayuka turned to Jinto and asked him what was wrong with him. He's acting like a kid today. Jinto replied to the girl that he was behaving like this not only today. In fact, he always wants to be in her arms. Shirayuka smiled and asked the guy if he was ashamed to say such a thing. But the guy just asked her not to mock him. The guys lay like that for a while. Shirayuka began to tremble very much from fear. The guys held each other's hands and Jinto told the girl that he really wanted such days to last forever. The girl asked the guy that it wouldn't be enough for him, would it? Shirayuka told the guy that he wasn't someone who would just stay in this place forever. They are very similar to each other. They would both neglect their way of life for the sake of other people's feelings. That's why they can't just stop and change the direction of their life path. Even if it may seem strange or disgusting, they will continue to try desperately. Jinto replied to the girl that he had lost her, and then his family. He didn't have a single reason left to fight. But the girl replied to the guy that no, he was wrong about that. He just temporarily lost sight of the reason, so he doesn't need to be afraid. The guys touched their hands and Shirayuka asked the guy to believe her. He would be able to find the answer. The girl promised that everything would be fine. She's always on his side. Shirayuka asked the guy to go and do what he had to do. Jinto thought about the girl's words. She turned to Suzuna and remembered how they all played together in a fun and friendly way. The girl wanted to tell Suzuna about this so that she would come to her senses and not be under the influence of a demon. The guy thought that the future he couldn't choose, the happiness he couldn't choose, without the opportunity to make at least one small wish. Like a drop of water, those fleeting days scattered like splashes and disappeared. And so Jinto continued to sit in the middle of the temple, next to the decapitated Shirayuka. The guy sighed heavily and said that the dream he saw was too beautiful. The guy remembered Suzune's words that everything that exists on this earth is to get rid of it all. Jinto got up and headed towards the exit. The guy turned to Shirayuka and told the girl that it was time for him to go. Jinto headed to the center of the village, where there were many people who were discussing what had happened. In the ruined temple, people sat and mourned the death of the princess. Meanwhile, Jinto gathered up a bag of things and began to pack. The guy laced up to make it easier for him to walk. The girl asked Suzune if they really shouldn't have lived like a real family. Jinto turned his head to the side and remembered how the little legs were running there. It was Suzune and Shirayuka who were running away from Motohara. The girls were having fun with each other. But now, Jinto remembered that Suzune, having turned into a demon, said that she no longer needed him either. Jinto stood in the house for a while and thought about how he lived there. The guy was saying goodbye to the house, and at that moment he heard the voice of the head. The man said Kiyomasa told him about what happened at the temple. He would also like to hear about it from the guy himself, from his point of view. So Jinto told the old man everything, how it really happened. The head replied to the guy that everything was clear. Jinto told him that he would go to Edo first. There, he will find out as much information as possible and work on himself. The head thought about it and asked the guy that he was going to kill the demon god, Suzune, using a forged blade. Jinto thought about it, but instead, Suzune brought the weapon right up to the girl's face. The guy replied that even now, she's still a valuable family member for him. The guy would like to fix everything without killing Suzune. However, Jinto's body has been turned into a demon, and he doesn't know if it will allow him to do this to her. Jinto thought that right now he was torn apart by the hatred that made him kill this girl. Jinto was very sad that everything had turned this way. The guy said that, to be honest, he had no idea what to do with himself. The head replied to Jinto that he was happy about it. The old man thought that by becoming a demon, he would decide that killing was the only sure option. If he's in doubt, it's likely that there's still something human left in the guy. Jinta looked at the old man and thought about his words. The old man took a gun with him and he handed it to the guy, telling him to take it with him. Jinta looked at the weapon carefully and immediately had a lot of memories in his head. The guy realized that it was the same Yarai that Suzune used to kill Shirayuka. She said goodbye to Shirayuka. The head told the guy that Yarai is a spiritual sword that will not rust even after centuries. He is just perfect, because the guy has to go through a lot to achieve his goal. The old man suggested that the guy try to get it. Jinta tried to do it, and he succeeded the first time. He saw his reflection in the sword itself. The guy immediately thought of Shirayuki. The old man told Jinta that no ordinary demon would give him any problems with Yarai. The man thought about it and said that now he needs to learn how to master it perfectly. In that case, according to tradition, from now on he should be called Jinya. Despite this, Jinta told the head that he couldn't take him with him. The old man replied to the guy that everything was fine. Since the Itsukihime clan has ceased to exist, the sword has no meaning. Anyway, he's just lying there and getting covered in dust. But the most important thing was that the princess would probably be happy if he took this sword. Jinta looked at the weapon and thought about it. From such a strong blow, Kiyomasa flew back and crashed into the table. Shirayuka was very scared for the guy. Meanwhile, Jinta continued to fight for his life. The guy had a fog in his eyes, and he said that everything was getting mixed up in one pile and getting dirty. The head said that he was worried that he and the princess loved each other. But Kiyomasa also had feelings for her, thinking of her child more than others. The head selfishly forced her to marry Kiyomasa. Suddenly, the old man bowed down in front of Jinta and said that he was very sorry. He is the real cause of all this unhappiness. Jinta didn't know what to do in this situation. He asked the head not to be sad about this. He just wished his son happiness. The head was very friendly and Jinta told him that Bokulia, all people, absolutely everyone, wishes happiness to those whom he protects. The guy understood that the same thing applies to demons. Jinta supported the man and said that now he needed to go to Kadono. The head replied to the guy that for sure a lot will change. The man said that no matter how the village was transformed, he would return there in 170 years. There would be nothing left of this place. Jinta said that the passage of time is cruel. The head supported him in this. Something has dissolved in him and now seems to possess him. The guy was hot and cold, alternating, and then confusion. It's like he can't think straight anymore. Suddenly, the man asked Jinta how he would like them to build a temple for him. The guy didn't understand what exactly the old man was talking about. The head wanted to tell the guy what they would call him, but still the old man said he would think about it later. The old man said that even though their lives last for a moment, they have the opportunity to leave something behind. The old man said it was the least they could do. Try to make the guy have at least one stingy tear. Jinta bowed his head to the head as he saw the head off. The guy looked at the weapon and thought again. Jinta realized that he was quite heavy, and so Jinta went on the road. The residents who were busy with their own affairs followed the guy with heavy looks. The guy thought that this land sheltered them when there was nowhere to go. But he was the one who had to repay this favor. The guy thought he was so pathetic. At that moment, Chitos looked out of the house and saw Jinta passing by. Jinta remembered the words of the demon who had asked him why he was holding his sword. The guy remembered his answer, that he was doing it for other people. There are those he wants to protect. There were tears in her eyes. She was sad to realize that everything had happened that way. When Jinta came to the bridge, he saw Kiyomasa there. Jinta approached him, and Kiyomasa asked the guy where he was going. Jinta replied that he wanted to work on himself. Kiyomasa asked the guy that he was leaving the village in order to destroy Suzune. Jinta thought about it and did not answer this question. He told Kiyomasa not to force himself. Otherwise, he will reopen wounds that have already healed. Suddenly, Kiyomasa confessed that he had always hated Jinta. The guy told Jinta that he was strong and calm. There is no need to rely on anyone. Everyone looks up to him. What annoyed him the most was that Shirayuka liked him. But the guy wasn't going to take her away from Kiyomasa or something. The guy confessed with tears in his eyes that he loved Shirayuka, although it was already enough for him just to be with her. Kiyomasa was sure that he would be happy anyway. But despite this, he married a princess. Jinta thought that was how it turned out. Jinta replied to the guy that he was too, but Kiyomasa didn't understand what he was saying to him. The demon asked the guy why he was staring at him so intently. Gentoushou said that he just wanted to be on her side. He didn't even think about anything else. Gentoushou said he should have talked more with Kiyomasa. It is likely that then, everything would have turned out quite differently. Perhaps Gentoushou could even call him his friend. Kiyomasa looked blankly at Gentoushou and asked him not to talk nonsense. Gentoushou replied to the guy that then he would say goodbye to him. They will never meet again. Suddenly, Kiyomasa called Gentoushou loudly and said that he and Suzune were in the same situation. This girl loved Gentoushou just as much as he loved Shirayuka. Kiyomasa said that now everything has turned into a mess. But this girl only had feelings for him. Gentoushou thought about it. Kiyomasa said that's why he asks him to remember this. Gentoushou didn't say anything to the guy, and he just continued on his way. Kiyomasa watched the guy go. He told the guy that he would not ask for his forgiveness. They need the guy to fulfill their great desire. When Gentoushou walked away from the village, the guy thought about why he was coming, what he thinks to do when he reaches his destination. Gentoushou remembered the old Suzune and thought that she was so beautiful. But the Suzune she turned out to be now was so disgusting. The guy thought about the situation again and said he didn't know what would happen next. He will have to wait 170 years. Gentoushou thought again of the demon's question about why he was holding his sword. Gentoushou knew that his journey would be very long. Meanwhile, the 22nd year of the Heisei era, 2010, has arrived. The city of Kadono. The girl was sitting at the table and holding a book in her hands. She read the title of the book. It's the Chronicles of the Wandering Spirits of Yamato. The contents included the titles of the chapters. The preface, The Princess and the Blue Demon, The Invisible Demon of the Temple and the Alley of Ghosts. Gentoushou stopped the demon and asked him what it all meant. The girl decided that she would start reading from the chapter called The Princess and the Blue Demon. The girl read that a princess lived in one village. The main character was very interested in what his younger sister had done. The girl read that a young man turned into a blue demon, pointed a sword at his younger sister, who became a red demon. The younger sister was deeply saddened that her brother hated her and fled. The girl in the form of a demon told her brother that she loved him, and if he hates her, then she doesn't need this world. One day, the demon promised to return and destroy the whole world. She left behind a sinister curse. Meanwhile, the girl was in the library. She read in the preface that this story she wrote is based on her first love. It was written there that the reader would come across this book many years after the incident. The girl said that she really liked the preface. She giggled a little, and the guy asked the girl what was wrong with her. The girl replied to the guy that she just thought how romantic it all was. She means that a love story from the distant past told in this way in modern times. The demon pointed at the guy with his finger and said that he had already given him a parting gift. He will definitely appear as he needs to. The girl really wanted her to be able to learn more stories from the Edo period. She asked Gentoushou that there were a lot of different events back then, wasn't there? Gentoushou replied that yes, they did a good job putting everything together. The guy said it was such a nostalgia for him. The guy was remembering those very days. The girl asked Gentoushou when the rumors about demons first started spreading. It was the 3rd year of the Kei era, autumn 1850 in Edo City. The shogunate could not cope with the gloom hanging over various foreign countries. This probably happened because of the riots that are exhausting people step by step. Edo was a city full of various legends. But in a few years, the number of witness statements began to increase at a tremendous rate. Despite this, the daily life of people in the city has not changed at all. However, all the people vaguely guessed that soon this would all come to an end. People were standing on a small street and looking back at a guy passing by them. Meanwhile, in a remote Nihonbashi alley, 2 men were chatting with each other. One of them thanked the other for constantly supporting him. But the second man said no. It was to say thank you to him. But Gentoushou still didn't understand what the demon was talking about. He stretched out his hand to the monster, but it disappeared from his field of vision. The man told Zenji that thanks to him, he can now trade safely. Zenji was slightly embarrassed, laughed and told the man not to talk like that. He's just an ordinary person. The man asked Zenji if he had ever heard of Shinkendo Kudzaemon. Zenji was surprised to ask the man what he was saying about that Esoshi store in the city of Tenma. He goes there from time to time. The man asked Zenji if he knew that they also sell shungs with kagems. The man said that the new issue was pretty good. Zenji presented this picture and he was very embarrassed by it. Zenji apologized to the man and he replied to his interlocutor that no, he was not interested in such things. The man asked Zenji if this was really the case. Zenji replied to the man that it was time for him to go anyway. Zenji decided that he would go back and have a snack there. Zenji came to the main street of Nihonbashi and said that he was back. Zenji went into the house and realized that it was suspiciously quiet there today. Even though it's still noon outside, Zenji went to the door and peered through the opening. The man thought they had guests in the house. At that moment, Jinta opened his eyes. Zenji saw that his father and another young man, unknown to him, were in the room. Suddenly, this guy abruptly turned to Zenji and saw that he was spying on them. Zenji was afraid of this. The man's father said he thought someone had come. The man saw that it was Zenji, who was very uncomfortable. He told his father that he had just returned. Zenji turned to his father and asked him who this man was who came to their house. The father thought about how to tell his son about this correctly. As a result, the man replied that he had hired a wandering samurai. Zenji was very surprised by this. He asked his father that he had hired a samurai specifically to work in the store. But the man called his son an idiot and replied that no, it wasn't. He asked his son who would hire a samurai for such a thing. The father said that the samurai would be engaged in accompanying Nansu. The man assumes that he is pretty good with a sword. The guy got up from the ground and realized that his head was hurting. Zenji asked his father what he was saying about Lady Natsu. The man immediately imagined the girl in his head. Zenji asked that he did it because of that incident. The father replied to his son that yes, that's right. The man got up from the floor and told the samurai that then he was counting on him. The man said that Natsu is not his blood relative, but she is so dear to him, as if she really is his daughter. The man turned to the samurai and he asked the guy to protect her properly. The samurai listened to the task. He bowed his head to the man and said that he understood him. The man smiled slightly. He turned to Zenji and asked his son to tell the samurai all the details that were known. Zenji replied to his father that he thought it would be better if he did it himself. But the man still replied to his son that he would tell him about it himself. Zenji didn't like the idea, and he wanted to say something else to his father, but he didn't have time. Zenji laughed awkwardly and apologized to the samurai. Zenji said that, to be honest, he's not a bad person. The man introduced himself to the samurai and said that he was a salesman in Sagaya. Suddenly, the demon girl called Kiyomasa a womanizer, and she asked the guy that didn't. He know that guys shouldn't get involved in women's fights. Jinta couldn't understand how he had miraculously survived all this. The samurai replied to Zenji that he could call him Jinya. Zenji thought that the way this guy was talking to him, it was quite polite for samurai. Zenji told Jinya that he was glad to meet them. Zenji asked the samurai what he had already learned. Jinya thought about it and replied that his father entrusted his daughter's safety to him. That's all. Zenji realized that this meant that he hadn't really told him anything at all. Jinya asked the man what was coming out in Natsu, whom he mentioned, is what she is. Zenji replied to the samurai that yes, that's all. Lady Natsu will be 13 years old this year. She's a bit cheeky in her own right, but a very sweet girl. Zenji told the samurai that, as he already knows, she is not related to her father by blood. Jinya asked the man what happened to Natsu's parents. Zenji said that presumably the girl's parents disappeared immediately after their daughter was born. And it seems to him that her father is her distant relative, so he took Natsu to himself. But anyway, that's the situation. Zenji also told a samurai that Lady Natsu tells everyone that she sees a demon that comes to her every night. For the first time, it happened near her room, as if a black shadow was standing behind a sliding door. The guy realized that the demon died before he could strangle him. But the girl shared that on the second day the shadow became even bigger. On the third day, which was just yesterday, she told her father about what had happened. But already that night, the shadow demanded that they return his daughter to him. The samurai asked Zenji what it meant and what he meant. Shinji replied that in other words, you can say that the demon thinks that Lady Natsu is his daughter, and it seems to him that he is going to kidnap her. Zenji told Jinya that this was why he was in this place. The man does not know if he really appears every night, but if he calms her and her father, then that will be enough. Jinya thought about it. He told Zenji that from what he said, he somehow didn't really believe in what was going on with Lady Natsu. Zenji was slightly surprised by this and awkwardly replied to the samurai that he was not. But immediately after that, the man said that yes, it is. Zenji said that Lady Natsu is only 13 years old. She is no longer a small child, but still. At that moment, Lady Natsu shouted Zenji's name and called him over to her. And then Jinta remembered about Susan. Zenji was scared of this, and he immediately turned to the girl. Lady Natsu was angry and she told the man that he was late. She asked him to come back as soon as possible. But then the girl's gaze fell on Jinya. Natsu asked Zenji who he was. After all, he didn't look like a customer. Zenji replied to the girl that he was an escort hired by her father especially for her. Natsu walked up to the guy and examined him carefully. The girl said he was quite young. Zenji replied that he was, but according to his father, he was a master of the blade. Lady Natsu was very surprised by this, and she asked the man again if this was actually the case. Jinya told Natsu that yes, it was probably true. But this answer did not suit Lady Natsu. She turned to Zenji and told him to get this guy out of there. At first, Zenji said that yes, it was good. But then he realized what the lady had said, and the man asked the girl in surprise what she had said. Lady Natsu replied to the man that in any case, he was only here for the money. The girl asked Jinya that he had found a strange case and was pretending to be an interested person, wasn't he? The girl said that she refuses to be in the company of someone like that all the time. The girl turned to Jinya and said that she would not pay him a single penny. The girl was very rude to the guy. Zenji immediately knelt down in front of the girl and told her that it was her father who was paying for the samurai's stay. Natsu turned away from the man and said that he was so annoying. The girl was confident in her decision, and she said that no means no. Zenji replied to the girl that he was just worried about her and her safety. The guy jumped off the seat and said that he had to hurry to her. Lady Natsu turned to Zenji and asked him why he would not be her escort. The man replied that he was still a weakling, and he would not succeed. The girl asked the guy if this was really the case. She replied that it was fine. Despite this, the lady turned away from the guys, and she told Zenji to get rid of him as soon as possible. Jinya smiled slightly and told Zenji that although they were not related, it seemed to him that they looked like each other in some way. Zenji awkwardly turned to the samurai, and he asked for his forgiveness for all that he had seen and heard. Meanwhile, night had fallen. Lady Natsu was sitting in her room, and she couldn't sleep. At that moment, the shadow came to her door again, who told her to bring her back. Suddenly, the girl heard someone knocking on her door. The girl was a little scared of this. Natsu heard that it was Zenji who addressed Lady Natsu. He asked the girl if she was asleep. The girl pouted and said she had the same question for him. The girl asked what he was doing so late near her room. Jinta ran as fast as he could through the forest. The guy thought that he had some kind of lightness in his body. Zenji replied that he was thinking that he could at least pretend to be her protector. The man said that probably even the scarecrow would do much better than him. But who knows? If he can scare away birds, then maybe he can handle a demon. Lady Natsu was surprised by his suggestion. The girl wanted to answer his words, but immediately the girl thought about it. Natsu pouted again and told Zenji that she was betting that he also thought she was lying to everyone. But then Zenji replied to the girl that no, it's not like that. Natsu told the man that her father thought the same way. That's why he hired such a samurai. She understands all this. But Zenji replied to the girl that she was wrong about that, because her father is always worried and very worried about her, so there is no doubt about it. But Natsu told the man that she was not his own daughter. How could he really love her? These words of the girl made Zenji very tense, and Lady Natsu became even sadder. Natsu remembered the very day she found out about it. Zenji was talking to a woman to whom he told everything as it is. The woman asked the man in surprise that it was true. Zenji replied that he did. His sword is gone, but he is not injured. The guy thinks that he can still get rid of other similar demons. His father had a young son who left home and never came back. Natsu heard their conversation at that moment. This made the girl very sad. The girl asked herself that she had simply become a substitute for his own child. She couldn't figure out if he really loved her. Natsu started crying, and she said that if only everything could fall into place. At that moment, Lady Natsu heard the voice of a demon who told her to bring her back. Zenji turned to Natsu and asked her if everything was okay. The man heard that strange sounds appeared in the girl's room. He asked Natsu what happened to her there, and then the girl screamed at the man with all her might that it was here. It's calm. Zenji immediately looked around him and said that there was nothing here. But when the man turned to the side, he saw a shadow in front of him and was afraid of it. This shadow said that this was her daughter and they had to bring her back. And so the guy ran, broke into the house and started shouting at Suzuna from the doorway. But Gentoushou saw that no one was waiting for him at home. Lady Natsu rushed to the door and she started screaming at Zenji. The man realized that it would be safer for the girl to stay at home, so he shouted at the girl not to go outside. But Natsu disobeyed the man, and the door to her room opened. Natsu went outside and saw a huge monster who said it was his daughter. The demon asked the man to give him his daughter. Zenji and Natsu were very scared because they saw a real monster with their own eyes. The demon began to pull his hand straight towards the girl. Because of this, panic began to take hold of Natsu, and she began to shake with fear. The demon kept asking for his daughter back. Zenji decided to protect Lady Natsu, and he covered her with his back. The man started laughing nervously, and he told the girl that everything would be fine and she wouldn't get hurt. But the demon continued to pull its huge arms straight towards Zenji. He asked for his daughter's return over and over again. At that moment, the man realized that he was unable to move. The guy realized that the girl was not at home, and the house itself was untouched. The guy assumed that she decided to go out on her own. Natsu was very scared of this, and she started screaming at Zenji to come to his senses. When the demon's hand was already too close to the man's face, a blow occurred. Someone managed to come to the rescue of Zenji and Natsu in time. He cut off the monster's arm. Zenji opened one eye and saw that he was no longer in danger of the monster. Zenji saw that the demon's arm flew off to the side and fell to the ground. At that moment, Samurai Jinta approached the guys, who turned to the demon and asked him to answer his question. The guy asked the monster what his name was. When Zenji and Natsu saw the samurai, they were very surprised, but the demon was in a stupor from the fact that his arm was suddenly cut off. The demon began to turn to the samurai, and he asked him for the guy to bring his daughter back. He repeated it over and over, many times in a row. Jinta told the guys that he didn't really expect to see something like this. Natsu couldn't find words out of her surprise. She asked the guy that he was the samurai they had hired earlier. Jinta remembered that Suzune usually doesn't go anywhere by herself, but Jinta replied that he was an aggressive defender at the moment. The samurai did not take his eyes off the monster. Suddenly, the demon started walking straight towards the samurai and the others. He was angry that no one gave him his daughter. Zenji tried to cover Natsu with his hand, and he asked the girl to be careful. The samurai didn't wait for the monster to get even closer to them, so he took off. Jinta slashed at the monster with his sword. Zenji and Natsu were very scared because they saw this with their own eyes. Jinta managed to cut the demon in two with his sword. Zenji and Natsu couldn't believe their eyes at what was happening there. They stood in a stupor of horror. When it was over and the guys felt safe, Zenji said it was just great. But then, Jinta turned to the guys, and they immediately realized that Jinta wanted to ask him something. The samurai turned to Natsu and asked her how much he wanted to pay him for his services. The girl was very confused by this. She looked at the body of the demon that had been haunting and tormenting her for several nights in a row, and then the thought came to him that the girl had probably gone to the temple. Then she looked at the samurai who had saved her. The girl couldn't figure out what to do in this situation. Natsu remembered that she had told the samurai that she would not pay him a single penny. But now the guy is asking how much she will pay him for his services. Natsu started to get annoyed again, and she said that she didn't like him. This angered Zenji very much. The man asked the girl how she could say such a thing, because he had just saved them all. Zenji asked the samurai if it wasn't time for him to go home. Jinta replied to the man that Juso had hired him, so he can't just walk away when someone else tells him to. Zenji asked the man why he hadn't been there the rest of the day. Jinta replied that he was hiding in the garden and waiting. Zenji, with delight in his eyes, told the samurai that, despite this, he still protected them. To be honest, he didn't even expect such a scary monster to appear. And then Natsu turned to the man with contempt and said that in the end, he still did not believe her. Zenji realized that he had expressed himself wrongly and was very worried. The man started making excuses, and he told the girl that no, he didn't mean it. Kiyomasa looked away from the sword and thought that Jirai could help him. When Jinto approached the temple, he saw a lot of blood on the steps. Natsu sighed heavily and said it didn't matter anymore. It's definitely over now. But suddenly the samurai told the girl that this was not the end. Natsu tensed up. All the guys turned back and looked at the monster's body. Jinta knew what was going to happen to him next. The demon's body began to slowly turn white, as if it was disappearing from this earth. The body became whiter, and Natsu asked the samurai that it was disappearing. Zenji asked Jinta what was happening to him right now. It's dead now. Jinta told the guys that when demons die, they turn into white vapor and disappear. And he had never seen them die in any other way before. The guy said that he didn't know what kind of trick had just happened. But anyway, it was still alive. The samurai added that later this demon would most likely return to them again, because his target is Lady Natsu. In front of the entrance to the temple, there were many corpses of guards who had been destroyed by the demon. Jinta grabbed his sword, and the girl tensed up a lot because of this. Jinya turned to Natsu and asked for her forgiveness. The guy said that from now on he would accompany her, even if she was against it. Meanwhile, morning came. Jinya, as he promised, was on duty outside the girl's room for the rest of the night. He'd been thinking all night about what had happened today. The guy thought that since the demon appears at night, he believes that he can relax a little during the day. At that moment, the samurai heard Natsu open the door to leave her room. The girl was still unhappy that the guy was working in her family and protecting her. The girl walked past the samurai, and Jinya asked her where she was going. Natsu sarcastically replied that she was going to the bathroom. The girl asked the guy not to follow her. After a few moments, Natsu sat down next to the samurai, and they sat there silently for a while. At that moment, a man came up to the guys and apologized to Natsu for making them wait so long. Gentoushоу was very scared, and he asked what happened there. The man brought the guys a tray with food. Jinya asked Natsu what it was. The girl replied that it was breakfast. But immediately her mood deteriorated again, and the girl asked if there was something he was hungry too. Wasn't he? Natsu pouted and turned away from the guy. Jinya realized that she still wasn't used to him. The samurai took the food and told the girl that he should thank her for it. It took some time as the guys continued to sit with each other near the girl's room. Natsu turned to the samurai and said that she would like to ask him about that demon. Natsu wanted to ask a question, but she stopped and thought about it. Jinya understood what the girl meant. He asked Natsu not to worry about it. He's a pretty experienced samurai, even if he doesn't look like one. Natsu nevertheless decided to admit to the guy that he is very strong. It was even somewhat unusual for a girl. Natsu thought all this time that the samurai would run away immediately, but it seems to her that her father was not mistaken in his choice. The guy looked at the bodies of people and remembered their words. One of them told the guy when he and Shirayuka came to the center that their defender had such a beautiful girl. Natsu asked the guy if he wasn't mad at her. Jinya thought about it. The girl explained that she had treated him rather rudely yesterday, so she was sure that the samurai should be mad at her. Jinya replied to the girl that it was so conscious on her part. Because of this, Natsu pouted again and asked the guy to shut up. Jinya told the girl that, in part, it was a game for him. Showing emotion in battle can make him vulnerable. Natsu asked the guy what it means that a neutral facial expression is part of a sword fight. The guy replied that yes, something like that. This made the girl think. And then she asked Jinya that it turns out that he really holds a grudge against her inside. The guy replied to the girl that, to some extent, yes it is. This made Natsu very tense, and the guy smiled slightly. The samurai asked the girl not to worry about it, because distrust of strangers is natural. And even he himself does not always do his job well. This surprised Natsu, and she asked the guy if it was true. Jinya replied to the girl that yes, it is. The guy said that despite his young age, failures still haunt him. Natsu immediately asked the guy what exactly he was talking about. He's not old enough to say such things. Jinya thought about it and said that yes, it really is. Another man said that Jinta was still at that age. Suddenly, Natsu turned around and saw her father there. The man told the guys that he was glad to see that they got along. The man turned around and walked in the other direction, and Natsu immediately ran after her father. The father asked the girl if she had managed to sleep last night. Natsu replied that yes, she had finally slept. But still, Jinya told Juzo that this was not the end. The man replied to the guy that he understood this. Then he asked the samurai to continue doing his job, as he had done that night. Jinya replied to the man that he would try to do it. This answer made Natsu very angry, and she hysterically asked the samurai how he dared to talk to her father and his employer in this way. But Juzo put his hand on the girl's shoulder and calmed her down, because everything was fine. Juzo said that it was a little rude to him, but it doesn't matter now. The man went about his business again, but Jinya stopped him. He told the man that he would definitely do his duty. Shounen told him to try to do it. While the guy was standing in a stupor, he heard someone behind him quietly and with the last of his strength calling the guy. At that moment, Natsu was shaking her head from side to side and looking from her father to the samurai. Meanwhile, Jinya finished his breakfast, and he thanked Natsu for the meal. Jinya got up from his seat and went about his business, while Natsu continued to shake her head in different directions. She asked the men what was going on there. Jinya went to Zenji's office to talk to him. He asked the man if he could spare him a couple of minutes. Zenji agreed to this. They came to a small eatery and dishes were brought to their table. Zenji turned to Jinya and he first asked to be allowed to thank the man. After all, yesterday he really saved them from a monster. The guy replied to the man that he thought he said it wasn't over yet. Zenji replied to the guy that, yes, he knows that. He apologizes to the guy. The man admitted that they were also counting on his strength tonight. Zenji was a little embarrassed by this conversation. He awkwardly asked the guy that he immediately accepted this story as the truth, didn't he? He knew that there was a possibility that a demon might appear. Jinta answered the man without hesitation, that yes, of course. Zenji confessed to the samurai that he didn't really believe it. Gentoushou turned around and immediately ran up to the man. The guy asked him what happened there. The man was shaking, and he told the guy that Suzune was there. He thought it was a ploy set up by Lady Natsu in order to get her father's attention. Although now the man understands that he should not doubt this. Suddenly, Zenji apologized to Jinta, and he asked the samurai to forget about the situation. He found out from Jinta what the guy wanted to ask him. Jinta said that the demon then told the guys to give him their daughter. The guy remembered that Natsu didn't even know his parents by sight. Zenji was slightly surprised by this question, and the man replied to the guy that he thought it was obvious that all this would arouse his suspicions. He asked the samurai not to worry about it, because it is impossible. Jinta asked the man what exactly he meant, but Zenji replied that it was fine, he would tell. The man confessed that his father's wife was killed by a demon. That's why he can't stand anything related to demons anymore. And it's possible that the situation has disturbed him even more than Natsu herself. Jinta clenched his fists and said that what he was telling him, his father would never accept Natsu if it were possible that she was the daughter of a demon. Zenji replied to him that yes, that's for sure. Jinta said that all this indicates that Juzo hates them very much. Zenji thought about his words. This scared the guy very much, and the man added that she was with a demon. The men confessed to the guy that, to be honest, his father had another boy. Jinta asked him to tell about this boy. Zenji said that he could actually be older than him now. It seems to a man that he left as a child and did not return. Zenji also heard that the reason for this was a demon. Anyway, what he means is, he doesn't have enough reasons to hate them. Although, he didn't really go into such acts. Zenji told the guy that Lady Natsu was sad every time they started talking about this topic. He is not tormented by the conscience that he knows nothing more about it. All he can say is that the demons are his father's sworn enemies who took his family away. Jinta replied to the man's story that it turns out that this man has also been through a lot. Zenji replied that yes, it is. He's definitely a little callous, but he asked the samurai not to think anything bad about him. At that moment, the waiter brought them more food. Zenji asked Jinta what he could tell him about his father. These were the last words of the man. Gentoushou was very upset. He saw a sword next to the man and took it. Jinta was slightly embarrassed by this question, but he decided to tell his story anyway. After he listened to the guy, Zenji choked slightly and asked him not to say anything bad to him. Jinta said that his adoptive father taught him how to use a sword. He was the best swordsman in their city, but he fell in battle against a demon. Zenji was embarrassed by the conversation and apologized to the samurai for bringing up the subject. The samurai replied that everything was fine, because he himself decided to answer the question and tell him about his father. Jinta thought that these were undoubtedly scary stories. He talks about monsters and spirits, willow tree phantoms, ghosts in the well, demons and cowheads. But still, the guy has a story much scarier than these. Natsu heard Zenji and the woman talking again. Men. Ashina said that his father was really having a hard time right now. A demon killed his wife, and his son was kidnapped by a female demon. It was exciting for Zenji to think about who would continue his legacy. The woman asked Zenji that maybe his father still believes that his son will return to them. From this it can be assumed that Juaso sheltered a girl, not a boy. At that moment, Juzo was sitting near the room and drinking sake. The guy apologized to the man and said he needed to borrow his sword. They will have to wait for the funeral ceremony. He drank a glass and said that the drink tasted terrible. Natsu saw this and she wondered why her father always drinks sake so sadly. Natsu thought that fictional horror stories didn't scare her at all. There is only one truly terrible thing, and that is the cold and cruel truth. Natsu and Juzo were sitting on top of each other and eating. Suddenly, Juzo turned to Natsu, and this slightly scared the girl as she even dropped the food from the chopsticks. Juzo asked the girl if her bodyguard was completely satisfied. Natsu replied to her father that yes, when she found out that he was a samurai, she was slightly skeptical about it. But in fact, it turned out that this person is not so bad. Juzo replied to the girl that it was good, and everything was clear to him. Natsu thanked him for taking such care and caring about her. Juzo replied to the girl that any father in his place would have done the same. Natsu asked the man why he chose him. Gyuso replied that it was just gossip that he had heard from regular customers. However, at the same time, a man appeared, killing them with just a sword. Kiyomasa grabbed the sword, but the demon saw it in time. The guy hoped that he would be able to strike at the girl. The guy turned with a slight panic and looked towards the entrance to the temple. Natsu was immediately introduced to Jinta, and she asked her father what he was saying about that samurai right now. Gyuso replied that yes, it was. He destroys demons for money. And besides, it seemed to the man that he was actually quite an experienced samurai. But most importantly, Gyuso replied that he could trust him. That's why he deserves to be his daughter's bodyguard. Natsu was very moved by this. When night fell, Jinya and Zenji were sitting outside Natsu's room and guarding it. But then Natsu carefully opened the doors and asked Jinya why Zenji was here. The man was slightly embarrassed. The man told the girl that he decided to try to redeem himself for yesterday. Natsu snorted and said that he could do what he wanted. Zenji said it was so rude. Natsu turned to Jinya and asked him that he knew a lot about demons, didn't he? Gyuso told her that he was destroying them. Jinya replied to the girl that, yes, sort of. Natsu said that she would like to ask him something. The girl asked the samurai if a demon and a human could have a child. Jinya and Zenji were very surprised by this question. Jinta took off and opened the door there with his foot. The samurai answered the question that yes, it could be, and the child will have similarities with a demon. It depends on the case. Natsu tensed and replied that everything was clear to her. She began to remember the very monster who had asked for his daughter's return. Zenji tried to calm the girl down, and he said that she had no reason to worry. It can't be that she became the child of a demon and a human, but Natsu told the man that she was not her father's own daughter. Besides, she doesn't know her real parents. And if she really is a demon's child, Jinya told the girl that the demon was not her ancestor. Natsu did not believe this, and she asked the samurai how he knew about it for sure. Jinya admitted that he was sure of it, because he knows this demon. Jinya said that he had met him before, and he could tell for sure that he was not her relative. Natsu asked Jinya again if this was true. The samurai replied that yes, it is. Natsu was very tense anyway. Jinto immediately called out to Shiryuka and Suzune, but then his gaze fell on the girls. Jinya asked Natsu if she liked Juzo. The girl pouted and asked the guy what kind of sudden question this was. The girl asked if it wasn't obvious. He raised her, of course. She was grateful to him. Jinya replied that it was clear. It was a good father-daughter relationship. It seems to him that Juzo is quite worried about her. Natsu asked the guy that this was really the case. Zenji said that of course. He hired a bodyguard for her the day after he told him what had happened. Natsu realized that this was actually the case. It was very nice for her to hear that. Jinya told the girl that obviously Zenji was telling the truth. The samurai also said that he accidentally heard that Juzo had a son. And then Natsu couldn't cope with her emotions, and the girl screamed that she had no idea. Zenji looked at the girl questioningly, as if guessing that she knew everything. The girl said that she did not know anything about her departed son. Therefore, he might not even ask her about such strange things. Suzune continued to point the sword at Shirayuki. Jinya said he understood her. He apologized to the girl. Natsu told the guys that it was cold outside, so she would go to bed. The guys escorted the girl out, and so Jinya and Zenji were left alone sitting near Natsu's room. The samurai asked Zenji if he had any ideas about how demons are born. The man replied that he assumed they had parents. Zenji asked the samurai that he was wrong about this. Jinya replied that there were only a few ways. They can conceive a child from each other. Sometimes people are raped for fun, resulting in a demon. There are also demons born from the void. This surprised Zenji very much, and he asked to tell him how demons can be born from the void. The samurai said that thoughts and feelings have power, especially dark and negative emotions such as anger, hatred, jealousy, lust, sadness, and greed. Such deep-rooted emotions accumulate, condense, and eventually become a single being. At that moment, Natsu heard everything the guys were talking about. The princess burst into tears and looked at the guy, and then Zenji and Jinya heard the shadow reappear near their house. They immediately looked at the shadow, and Jinya added that therefore, demons born from the void are ideas that have taken physical form. At that moment, the demon appeared in front of people, and he again asked for his daughter's return. Jinya turned to the demon again and said that he would like to ask about his name. But the demon continued to want his daughter back. The monster took off and rushed towards the guy. but the samurai will put the demon down quickly enough. The guy sat on the monster and said that it seemed to him that this demon did not have enough intelligence to tell his name. He was very sorry. Genji looked at the guy with his mouth open, and he said it was very amazing. Jinta got up from the monster and walked away from it. The demon began to slowly move towards the guy again and moan. But the samurai didn't show his emotions at all. At some point, the demon abruptly attacked the guy. Jinta hit him right in the nose with the hilt of his sword. After that, the samurai struck the demon's head with his sword from above. From the impact, the monster fell to the ground and began to moan in pain. And Jinta stood and looked at him. Gentoushou didn't wait a second. He immediately ran to the princess to save her. The demon did not lose his strength. He began to move towards the guy again. Zenji was very concerned that the samurai was not continuing the battle. He asked the guy about why he wasn't pulling out his sword. He asked Jinta to stop chatting with him and finally strike, because the monster is rising again. Jinta abruptly turned to Zenji and Natsu and asked if he should kill him. This question surprised the man very much, and he asked the guy why he was asking such a question. The demon continued to advance on the guys. He had already approached the guy and stood behind him. Zenji realized that the samurai was in danger. He asked Jinta why he was asking him such things. After all, he needs to hurry as soon as possible. Jinta replied to the man that he was not asking him, but Lady Natsu. Zenji was very surprised by this. Natsu also tensed slightly, and she asked the samurai why he was asking her. Zenji looked at the girl, hoping for her answer. The samurai replied to the girl that he would be attacked by demons and make his father worry, as if she were his own daughter. The guy asked the girl that wasn't what she would like. Shirayuka also went to the guy. Jinta was serious enough and he said he was asking her again. Should he kill this demon? Natsu was very puzzled by this question. She didn't know what to say to the guy. Her eyes widened and she tried to quickly decide what to say to her. The girl began to shake. She was very worried. Jinta added that Zenji's suspicions were correct. It's just a trick they came up with. They just didn't notice it themselves. At that moment, the demon attacked the guy again, but the samurai hit him with a sword. The demon's head snapped back from that blow. Jinta said that even if he stabbed him, the demon would surely reappear. Natsu was trembling violently from uncertainty and fear. She asked the guy again why he was asking her about it. It was obvious to her. Jinta told the girl that this demon is nothing but Natsu's emotions. Tears appeared in the girl's eyes, and she thought that these were her emotions. Jinta said that he appeared as a result of her desire. She created a fuss in order to attract the attention of her beloved father and Zenji. The demon uttered unpleasant words and attacked her. That's such a profitable story. They reached out to each other and grabbed each other's hands. The girl ran and bitterly thought that she was just a substitute for his own child. He really thinks so. The girl saw her father drinking sake very sadly every day. It was sad for her to realize that. And suddenly the demon turned to Natsu and he asked her that she did not love him. The girl was very afraid of such a harsh treatment to her. The demon was lying down, and he kept asking for his daughter to be returned to him. Natsu was terrified. The girl broke out in a cold sweat and continued to tremble. Natsu cried and talked about how she would never be able to become a real member of this family. Even if she loves him very much, then the father wants to have real people close to him, not her. The girl understood that all this time she was just a substitute for his son. Although she is with him now, the girl was still very sad. And if he doesn't value her as much as she values him, he won't care about the girl if his son comes back to the family. Natsu knew that he didn't care about her. The more and more she thinks about him, the stronger the stream of ugly thoughts in her head. Natsu thought that maybe if a demon came and kidnapped her, he would worry about her as if she were his own daughter. The girl suddenly realized that instead of a demon, she sees herself. The demon in Natsu's face was sure that her father did not love her. Suzune stood there and didn't even move. Jinta hugged the girl tightly. The guy was ready to strike, but the demon did not let him do it. The guy breathed a sigh of relief and said that he had made it on time. He tried to calm Shirayuka down and said that they were fine. But then the guy's face changed, because he remembered that there was a demon next to them. When the guy turned around, Suzune was already gone. Jinta realized that she had disappeared. But then the guy felt Shirayuki's body go limp. The guy was holding her in his arms and trying to figure out what happened to the girl. At that moment, the guy saw that the demon had beheaded Shirayuka. The girl's blood began to spray in all directions. Jinta was very scared and he stood in a stupor, not understanding how this could happen. Jinto felt that someone stood up right behind him. It was Suzune who told Jinto that he shouldn't touch that dirty thing. Jinto slowly turned his head to see who was standing behind him. Suzune asked the guy that he understood that he would get his clothes dirty. She sharply kicked the guy in the stomach with her foot. Suzune and Jinto looked into each other's eyes and were silent. The guy saw that Suzune had a weapon in her hands. The girl decided to finish off Shirayuka. Jinto turned his head towards Shirayuki's body in an instant and saw that Suzune had plunged a weapon into her. Jinto was very scared for the girl. He remembered how Shirayuka had asked the guy what else they could do with him. Jinto couldn't believe that this was really happening. But Suzune, as if nothing had happened, looked at the guy and smiled. She held Shirayuku's head in her hand and told Jinto that she was very glad he was back. The girl admitted that she was worried if the guy was hurt. Suzune happily called Jinto her brother again. Jinto was very surprised when the demon called him her brother. He didn't understand what she meant. But still, Jinto decided that first of all, he had another matter. The guy definitely decided that he would need to deal with her first. Jinto screamed loudly, took off from his seat and headed towards Suzune. Jinto struck the girl, from which she could not hold Shirayuki's head, and she rolled on the floor. The impact was so strong that Kiyomasa flew back again. Jinto took advantage of the moment when Suzune was distracted by the guy's punch, and he decided to attack her again. But Suzune managed to put her hand in front of the guy's sword and push him aside. This blow was very strong, and Jinto couldn't stay on his feet. He was led back and stopped at the wall. The guy thought about the situation he was in now. But Suzune sweetly asked Jinto if there was something wrong with him. Jinto was very puzzled, and the guy thought that he didn't stand a chance against her. The guy could tell right now that she wasn't even thinking about fighting. Jinto decided not to prolong this moment. He gathered his strength and ran towards Suzune, who was standing calmly with a loud shout. The guy thought that he would still protect her. Jinto only wanted to make one hit, no matter what. The moment Jinto swung at Suzune, she called the guy brother again and asked if he was okay. Suzune made eyes full of empathy. Jinto looked into those eyes, and he still couldn't figure out what was going on there. Natsu realized that it was precisely because of this that the demon possessed such a bizarre shape. Jinny asked the girl what would happen now. Genji thought for a moment, but then a smile appeared on his face. Jinya asked the man that he had decided to open this restaurant after all. Otu replied that it was a very long story. The girl asked Jinya that in any case, Tujigiri's torture is scary, isn't it? She asked the guy to be careful. Jinya replied to the girl that he was old enough for her to address him like that. The girl replied that it was just right for those guys who say that. The girl brought Jinya tea. Jinya thought about how he believed that there was nothing he could do. He wasn't getting old anymore. He wondered why women like to treat men like children. Jinya thanked the workers for the food. He asked the waitress how much he owed her. The girl replied that it was 16 mon. The man turned to Jinya and said that he had to admit that the guy was making good money for a wandering samurai. Jinya replied that he had a job. Aoto asked the guy what kind of job he had. Jinya shared that he is engaged in the destruction of demons. The man laughed and told the guy that he was so brave. Oto asked that he was going to Ryugu Palace afterwards. The man asked the girl to listen to him. Jinya counted the money and told the man that it should be enough. The man asked Jinya that if we talk about demons, they say that there are no sword wounds on the corpses. They only find a lot of corpses that look like they were torn apart by a monster. Moreover, Otu had heard that the number of corpses did not match. Jinya asked the man what number he was talking about. The man replied that the number of corpses did not correspond to the number of missing people. Oto suggested that they might have been kidnapped or captured. There is also a rumor that the culprit may be a demon. Jinya thought about it. After the restaurant, he went to the Ito Bridge in Itobashi. The guy stood on the edge of the bridge and thought that Tsujigiri had appeared in this place. Even though he's in the right place, Jinya thought that he couldn't just wait for him to come in a convenient way. The guy decided to leave this place, but then he heard a very loud female scream. The guy immediately turned on him. Zenji put his hand on the girl and said that he didn't want to stay awake all night either. Jinya realized that this scream was coming from a nearby bridge. The guy did not wait long, and he immediately ran to the bridge. When the samurai approached the bridge, his eyes widened in fear. Jinya saw several corpses of people in front of him. The guy thought that he had arrived there too late. He was a moment too late. Jinya carefully examined the bodies and the wounds on them. The guy realized that the wounds were as if from claws. There can be no mistake about this. But then Jinya remembered that he was absolutely sure that the woman was screaming. The guy immediately looked at all the bodies and realized that there was no woman among them. Jinya recalled the words of the man from the restaurant that he'd heard information that the number of corpses did not match the real one. This made Jinya think. Suddenly the guy realized that he was not alone on the bridge. Someone swung a sword at the samurai, but Jinya tried to dodge the blow. The samurai noticed that he had a wound on his shoulder. The guy realized that it was a cut from a sword, but Jinya couldn't figure out who did it. Suddenly Jinya heard that someone was next to him again. Natsu got angry and told the man that it was as if she had asked him to do it at all. Zenji replied that no, that's not what he meant. The samurai realized that they had approached him and swung the sword again. Jinya took a step back, but still the sword hit him. Jinya heard footsteps coming from not far away from him. The guy turned to his invisible opponent and said that now everything became clear to him. It was his sword. The guy thought that most likely this is an ability that hides someone's presence. However, the sounds are present. It seems to the samurai that this demon is quite weak. Jinya told his opponent that they were lucky that there were no survivors here. Thanks to this, he can no longer hide. With the help of his abilities from the past, the guy's arm has increased several times. But Jinya noticed that his opponent had run past him again. The guy realized that he was going to attack now, so Jinya put his hand out in front of him, and a sword cut immediately appeared on her. The guy's arm was too strong, and because of this, part of the sword broke and flew off. Jinya saw it, and he immediately realized that only what concerns his body is hidden. In this case, the samurai decided to act more confidently. Jinya took out his sword and tried to see his opponent. Suddenly, he heard a crunch behind him, which gave away his opponent. The man said that demons are scary, and he will be tired in the morning. He really doesn't want to do all this. The guy turned around at the same moment and struck his opponent with the sword. Jinya realized that he had managed to hit it. Blood from the wound began to drip onto the floor of the bridge. The guy's opponent started to leave, and Jinya noticed it by the traces of his blood. The samurai named his opponent Tsujigiri and said that now he would not hide anymore. The monster was scared of this, and so he asked Jinya to stop. The guy stopped attacking the monster, and he was just waiting for it to show itself. Jinya saw that his opponent had started to slowly appear. It was a monster with a huge eye that was holding on to its wound. He wanted to say something to Jinya, but he couldn't. The guy told the demon that his name was Jinya. He asked the monster if he could tell him his name. The demon said his name was Mosuke. Jinya replied that he understood everything. He will remember his name and now he can disappear again. But the demon asked the guy to wait again. Mosuke told Jinya that he had confused him because he was not a Tsujigiri. However, it is also important for him to support Natsu. These two feelings are true, and in the end, he chose to keep an eye on her all night. Jinya was very surprised because he was sure of it. The demon was very scared of the guy, and he told him that he wasn't even going to fight him. But Jinya looked at the broken part of his sword and wondered if this was really the case. The guy asked the monster again that he didn't want to fight him. But how can he even say that if he attacked the guy first? Mosuke replied to the guy that he thought he was Tsujigiri himself. Mosuke said that there were rumors that he was a demon. When he arrived at the scene, he was exuding a demonic scent. Therefore, in this case, it would be strange for him to trust Jinya. Mosuke admitted that when the guy called him Tsujigiri, he decided to show himself in reality. Jinya asked the monster why a demon like him was trying to deal with Tsujigiri on his own. It was unpleasant for Mosuke to be there, and he asked the guy that maybe then they would leave this place first. Jinya agreed with him. Mosuke led Jinya to a street with several small houses. A demon lived in one of them. Zenji said that he is trying to convey to the girl that she can just dismiss bad thoughts, focus and act on the basis of feelings that are more important. Jinya sat down on the floor and looked around his house. The guy said that it was very surprising for him because he lives just like ordinary people. The guy saw that there were cobwebs in some places, but mostly there was ordinary human furniture. Mosuke turned into a human form and told the guy that there was nothing special in his life. Any adult demon is capable of taking human form. Mosuke poured the guy a drink and said that demons never lie, but they can hide the truth. Many people do this. Mosuke asked the guy if he wasn't the same. The man handed him a drink and told him not to worry because there was no poison there. Jinya took the drink from him. The man awkwardly asked the guy to introduce himself again. The man said that he was Masuke, an ordinary commoner living in a dilapidated house. Jinya replied that the demon was his true identity. Mosuke replied that despite his appearance, He's considered a high-class demon who has lived for more than 100 years. This surprised Jinya very much. The guy wanted to tell him something, but Moski beat him to it and said that yes, that's right, he's pretty weak. The man said that those who have awakened their abilities are called high class. It really has nothing to do with how strong they are. The man was definitely sure that it was okay to convey his emotions. Genie remembered the demon from the past, and he thought that now it seemed to him that she was not so powerful. Jinya once again asked the man that he was not a Tsujigiri. Mosuke replied that he did, and he didn't either. Jinya replied that it was true. Jinya asked the man why he was following him. Moshi shared with the guy that it was a personal grudge. Jinya wondered what he meant. Masuke asked the guy if he had heard rumors of kidnappings. The guy replied that yes, the number of corpses does not correspond to the real number of missing people. Mosuke said that yes, it is. It seems to him that only men have been killed, and all the women have been kidnapped. This interested the guy, and he asked Mosuke why this was happening. The man replied that his wife had been stolen. She was human, but she accepted his demon nature. A month later, she disappeared, and 10 days later, her body was found in the Kanda River. Masuke's hand began to tremble, and he remembered what the guards had told him, that the wounds on her body testified to a brutal desecration. The men asked the guy that it was hard for him to believe that there could be a relationship between a human and a demon. Jinya asked the man that they never lie, do they? Masuke knocked over a glass and replied that yes, of course. Natsu turned to Juzo and said that, to be honest, she only wanted to live happily with him. Zenji told the girl that he was worried about her. He just knows how much the lady loves her father. The man said that she was a kind woman, the most merciful. She always worried about other people first. His wife loved the man, despite the fact that he was a demon. Mosuke was sure that she didn't deserve to die like that. After all, he loved her so much. Mosuke was very saddened by the situation, and he told the guy that this Tsujigiri, who defiled and took her, he couldn't help but hate him. Jinny was sad about the story too. The guy knocked over a glass and said that everything was clear to him. The guy asked the man that he hadn't killed anyone before. Maybe it's better for him not to get his hands dirty and leave it to someone who's already stained with blood. But Mosuke was absolutely sure that he didn't. If he had the opportunity, he would immediately kill Tsujigiri without any hesitation. The man thanked the guy for making such an offer. But being a demon, he won't be able to give up just like that. It is impossible to live in peace without revenge for the death of his beloved wife. Jinya told the man that he would fulfill his wish first. But the guy himself still has other reasons for killing demons. If he gets to Tsujigiri first, then he will do it. Mosuke replied that he understood the guy, so that will be their fate. He understood the guy, so that will be their fate. He's not going to get mad at the guy because of this. Then Jinya decided to suggest that the man look for him right now. And Mosuke agreed with him without hesitation. The guy started going door to door and asking people if they knew any information about Tsujigiri. People said no, they hadn't seen anything and didn't know anything. Natsu wiped away her tears and gathered her thoughts, and some skeptically asked the guys who they were. Jinya told Mosuke that they were unlucky today too. The man said that everything was not as simple as it turned out. The guys sat down on the riverbank and started drinking again. Mosuke told the guy that it was very tasty. He was embarrassed that Jinya was treating him to such good wine. Jinya replied that no, it was inconvenient for him, because he was constantly having dinner at his expense. The guys were looking at the water, and Mosuke asked Jinya why he was killing their brothers. It seems to a man that he would not do something without a good reason. Jinya confessed that he was once a human being. Her lover was killed by a demon, and his hatred made him so. But his thinking most likely remained human. The guy destroys almost every demon that harms people. He kills them to order. Masuke handed the guy a bottle and replied that he understood everything. The man asked the guy that, to put it simply, he protects people from demons. But still, Jinny replied that no, he wasn't. He mainly hunts demons to earn money from their deaths and become stronger. And he lives only to stop a certain demon. Mosuke asked the guy again that he wanted to stop him, not kill him. Jinny replied that he would destroy or leave alive. He would decide later when he found him. But in any case, he needs to be strong enough. Mosuke told the guy that it sounded difficult enough for him. The samurai was confident that this demon would continue to appear as long as the girl was satisfied with it. As long as there is a reason, the demon will not disappear. The girl confidently shouted at Jinya to kill him. Jinya replied that no, he was just too weak. Even now, everything inside him burns with hatred, along with the memories of those happy days, which surprisingly still flicker in his memory. But still, Jinya didn't understand that he wanted to save or kill that girl. He still wasn't sure about this question. Jinya turned to Moscow and asked him what he would do after his revenge. The man replied that he would not do anything special. Jinya was slightly surprised by this. Moscow said he would live pretending to be a simple man because he doesn't like conflicts. Demons are sometimes so selfish that they are ready to kill each other over the slightest disagreement. A man would like to avoid such problems, so he wants to be among people. Moshi said that he couldn't even imagine that he would kill other demons using his powers. All he dreamed of was just living his quiet life, and preferably with his beloved wife. That's why Moscow is going to move on quietly after taking revenge for his wife, because looking after her grave sounds good too. Jinya replied to the man that if it were that simple. Moscow replied that yes, he agreed with him. After a while, the guys sat and talked with each other. Jinya asked the girl if she was sure about this. Natsu replied that she did. The girl decided that from now on she would be sincere. She will be more open with her father. Jinya reminded Moscow that the man had previously said that he was a person who would not do something without a good reason. It was a pretty high opinion of him. Jinya confessed that he hates his younger sister for no good reason. The next day, Jinya went to the restaurant again. A waitress met him there and wished him a good morning. The girl asked the guy if he had found Tsujigiri. Jinya sat down at the table and replied that he did not recall telling her about it. The girl was slightly embarrassed by this. She asked the guy what he meant by that. After all, the samurai himself had told her yesterday that he made a living killing demons. The girl asked if he wasn't following the rumors about their appearance. The girl smiled sweetly at the guy. Jinya thought about what it meant. She believed it. The guy told the girl that he was not doing very well so far. The girl asked the samurai not to get upset. After all, you can't easily pull a fish out of the pond, whether it's destroying demons or running a business. Oto laughed and said that their business was bad, as always. Jinya replied to the man so that people would not be attracted to such a girl. Edo was certainly a crowded city. Oto said that the guy is observant. He asked Jinya if Ofu wasn't a beauty. Natsu said that of course this thing reflects her emotions, but she doesn't need them anymore. The girl was very indignant about this, and Jinya said that he believed 8 out of 10 people would agree with this. Oto told the guy that he had a wound eye. He asked the samurai if he would like to marry Ofu and run the store. Ofu was indignant again and asked the man what he was saying. Why do you need to go so far? Oto replied to the girl that he thought he would help her find a good groom, but Ofu said she could handle it on her own. Oto said he thought this gentleman would suit her perfectly. Ofu told Jinya that Oto was only thinking about how to get rid of her as soon as possible. Jinya replied to the girl that he was a very good father. Ofu turned and looked at the guy questioningly. The girl smiled and said that yes. She was happy that he was like that, although sometimes he was too noisy. Ofu looked at the guy and realized that he was a little upset. The girl told the guy that she wasn't sure she could ask such things. Jinya asked the girl what she meant. Ofu asked the guy that he would not say such words about his father. Jinya was slightly embarrassed by this question. Jinya was happy about the girl's choice. The guy said that he has a younger sister. Still, Jinya wondered why he was talking about it. After all, there's no need to tell this girl about such a thing. Jinya told me that her name was Suzune. Their father said she wasn't his daughter and bullied her. In the end, he disowned her. So the guy himself left their family home with Suzune. But that was in the past now. Ofu was saddened to hear such a story from a guy. She asked the samurai that he hated his father. Jinya replied that he did not. In general, when he grows up, he can understand why he did it. Jinya thought about it, and Ofu looked at the guy questioningly. Jinya said that, however, these are very disgusting and complicated things. To love someone, to hate someone, to live and then to die. Even this is so difficult to do. Sometime later, when night fell, Jinya and Moscow stood on the bridge and said that they had not been successful in various places. They never found him. Moscow suggested that maybe they needed to change their tactics. Mosuke thought about it, and the guy asked him what it was. Mosuke pointed his finger forward and said that there was a woman standing there, but it was already very late. Jinya looked at the girl and realized that it was Afu. The samurai said that absolutely all things can change. However, demons cannot do this. That's why they were born. The guy wanted to say that he knows this girl, but Mozgi understood it himself from the expression on the guy's face. A fuh. Her Jinya approached the girl, and she greeted him joyfully. The girl asked the guy if he was walking there alone. Jinya immediately turned back and realized that Mozgi had turned invisible again. Mosuki told the guy that he didn't want to bother them. Afu noticed the guy's worried face and asked if there was something wrong with him. The guy replied that no, it was much more important that Ofu was walking alone on the street so late. The girl turned to the tree and said that she was just watching this cherry blossom. Jinya looked at the tree and thought about it. He asked the girl if it wasn't a willow tree or something like that. After all, the branches of the tree are lowered down. Afu's dungeon told the guy that he was wrong about that. She took one of the twigs and asked the guy to look at it. A voice said that they hang down when flowering occurs, like a snow-covered willow. That's why the tree is called Yuki Yanagi. But the inflorescences are more like cherry blossoms. Jinya once again said that these are stagnant emotions. The guys continued to look at the tree, and the guy said that it was really beautiful. But he couldn't say that it looked like a cherry. The tree looks like a willow. But even when it blooms, it cannot become a cherry blossom. Jinya said it was such a lonely flower. Afu asked the guy that it looks beautiful. Jinya agreed with the girl. Afu said that it can't be willow or cherry blossoms. But even if it is, flowers appear on the tree every year. She didn't know how Yuki Yanagi felt, but she was sure that it didn't consider itself useless. Therefore, the girl asked not to make the guy such a gloomy face. Afu and Jinya exchanged glances with each other. Jinya asked the girl to return home, because he was sure that her overprotective father was worried about her. Afu laughed and said that, yes, he was right. The girl said that she thinks the guy needs some rest. Jinya asked Afu if he really looked that exhausted. The girl replied that, whatever it was, it seemed to her that he was fixated on something or was putting too much pressure on himself. Jinya admitted that, yes, maybe it is. There is one thing he must definitely complete. That's all he lives for. The samurai took off and rushed at the demon. Afu replied to the guy that she didn't know what was going on. But it was better to take a break from work from time to time. It is good when a person has a goal, but it becomes tedious if there is nothing else. Jinya said that was all he had. Suddenly, Afu abruptly squatted down and asked the guy if he knew what they were called. The girl said that it was a wolf hunter. It rises in autumn, withstands winter and blooms in spring. Afu asked the guy that it smells delicious, doesn't it? It was the smell of spring. Jinya sniffed the plant and said it smelled very fragrant. A third you pointed to another plant and said it was a starburst. The guy said he had heard of them. This surprised the girl, and she asked if it was true. Jinya replied that yes. In Kadono, in the village where he lived, it was often used as a medicine for stomach pain. Jinya shared with the girl that his childhood friend often used it. She had a bad habit of constantly eating a lot of sweets. Because of this, her stomach hurt a lot, and she had to be treated with asterisks. Afu was touched and said that she must be a wonderful person. The guy struck the monster's body with his sword with one movement of his hand. Jinya replied that yes, he never knew what to do about it. Afu told the guy that he lied to her when he said he didn't have anything else. He, like Soba, thinks these flowers are beautiful and they have such valuable memories. The girl thinks that they are just shackled by that one thing and don't understand it. The girl added that if they stop for a moment, they will notice how many flowers are around. Jinya replied to the girl that now that he thought about it, he realized that he had not really admired flowers for a long time. Jinya asked the girl if she would tell him about other plants. Afu answered without hesitation that yes, of course. After a short walk, Jinya walked Afu home. The girl thanked the guy for that. Jinya thought she was so unusual. The guy was surprised that he had just been taught by a child of 14 or 15 years old. At that moment, Muski appeared and said that this girl was so cute. The samurai told the demon that he was a hindrance to people living in the real world. So he needed to disappear from there. Jinya was very surprised by the abrupt appearance of the man, and the guy asked him that at least he wasn't eavesdropping. But Moshka replied that no one knew. Mosque said they could go on searching. The man immediately went and said that he would look there. They'll see each other later. Jinya stood on the bridge and thought that he would start his search from this place. The guy came down from the bridge. Mozuke ran past him, and they said goodbye to each other. But then Jinya noticed another girl walking alone. It was very frivolous for the guy, but the guy realized that it was the girl who recognized him. Suddenly, Jinya heard a strange sound. The guy realized that something had happened to Mosuke. Jinya turned back and saw that someone had killed Mosuke. The man fell dead to the ground, and Jinny and the girl stood in a stupor and did not know what to do. The girl was very scared of this and began to scream loudly. Zenji and Natsu carefully watched the destruction of the monster. Jinny realized that these were the tricks of Tsuchigiri. Of facing an impassive Minotaur, Heisei Tempaninon in the guy, he was ready for battle. The guy immediately took out his sword and began to look for where the demon was. The monster struck the first blow at the guy, but Jinny managed to put out his sword and defend himself from him. The guy managed to deflect the enemy's blow, but then Jinny realized that he had lost it. The girl stood and looked at it all with horror. She asked the samurai what it was just now. Jinny replied to the girl that if she wanted to stay alive, she should not move. The girl implicitly agreed with the guy. Jinny thought that he should not turn into a demon now while the girl was with him. Suddenly, the monster attacked the guy once again, and Jinny managed to defend himself. The guy tried to hit the monster, but it didn't hit him. The girl was in shock. She couldn't keep her emotions in check. The guy managed to destroy the demon. Jinny thought that he could recognize where his attacks were coming from, but he couldn't hit the demon in any way. The guy realized that he was very fast, and suddenly, right in front of Jinny and the girl, the same monster appeared. It was a huge demon with horns on 4 paws. He glared at the samurai and growled. The girl couldn't keep her emotions in check. She closed her mouth to keep from screaming. But Jinny was calm. The samurai thought that he instantly killed the man with his claws, but did not touch the girl. Jinny decided that he was the one behind everything that was happening. As soon as Jinny wanted to turn to the demon and ask him something, the monster immediately attacked the guy. Jinny swung at the demon and threw several punches in his direction. But none of them hit the monster. Jinny looked up and saw that the monster had revealed its essence. His body lay on the ground and gradually disappeared. The guy didn't care how agile he was, but he wouldn't be able to move in the air. Suddenly, the monster was able to rush skyward abruptly. Jinny was very surprised, and he realized that the demon was able to push off from the air. The guy understood that he was in a bad situation. The demon decided to change the target, and he headed towards the girl. The demon was already very close to her. Jinny tried to make it to the girl in time to save her, but the guy knew that he would not be able to do it. Suddenly, some force pushed the girl away so that she fell to the ground, and the demon did not have time to grab her. The monster jumped past the girl and fell off the bridge, destroying it. Jinny noticed that the outline of Moski appeared next to the girl. This pleased the guy, and he calmed down a little for the girl. Zenji did not leave Natsu's side and supported the girl all the time. But the monster was able to grab onto the bridge, and he tried to climb it again. Jinny realized that he should not have allowed this to happen. The guy swung his sword at the monster with all his might. The demon managed to bounce up from the bridge. The guy saw that he started pushing off from the air and running away from the crime scene. Jinny was upset by this and realized that he definitely couldn't keep up with the monster. At that moment, Mozgo approached the guy and said that he would try to follow him. Maybe he would be able to find his lair. Jinny turned to the girl and looked at her surprised face. The guy turned to Mosuke and told him not to be so reckless. Mosuke asked the guy not to worry about it. He also asked to look after that girl. Suddenly, the girl called out to the guy and asked her to listen. Jinny asked the girl what she wanted to tell him. The girl shared that she couldn't get back on her feet. She asked the guy if he could give her a hand. Natsu was lying in the man's arms, and he asked Jinya if it would appear again. Jinya helped the girl, and she thanked him for his help. But the girl said that he still remained callous. Jinya was slightly surprised by this. The guy remembered Lady Natsu, and he asked the girl what she was. Natsu replied that she already thought that the guy had forgotten about her. Jinya apologized to the girl and said that she had matured so much in these 3 years. Natsu replied to the guy that he hadn't changed a bit. Jinya shared with the girl that he doesn't change much with age. Natsu said that most girls would despise him for that. Natsu couldn't just stand, and she leaned slightly against the guy. The girl thanked the samurai once again for saving her. Jinya decided to accompany the girl, and he asked Natsu if she often walks alone at night. Natsu replied that no, she was just running an errand for today. Jinya asked that she was helping her parents. Natsu replied that yes, because she needed to respect them. Jinya told the girl that she had changed a lot, but Natsu didn't believe the guy and asked if he was telling the truth. The guy replied that everything should be fine. Now everything would depend only on Natsu. Jinya said that she had learned to smile. The girl replied that she was already an adult, but he was still a child. Suddenly, Zenji appeared right next to Natsu, who scared the girl very much. The man said that he had come to escort the lady home. Jinya saw the man and immediately called out to him. Zenji was very surprised to meet the samurai. Zenji told the guy that he was Jinya. The guy replied that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. The man asked the samurai that something had happened to him. Natsu replied that he helped her when she was attacked by a demon. Zenji was very afraid for the girl's health. He grabbed Natsu by the shoulders and asked her not to worry about it. Her father really cares about her. Natsu told the man that he misunderstood everything. It was something else now. Jinya decided to tell Zenji about what happened to them. Zenji thought about Tsujigiri and said that it was still true. He had heard rumors about it. Zenji replied to the guy that he thought the samurai was right. Jinya said that Tsujigiri is a demon, and he's chasing him. Zenji replied that he was dealing with strange cases as usual. It seems to him that demons began to surround them everywhere. Natsu turned to Jinya and asked the guy how he was doing. Jinya replied that nothing had changed for him. He is still a wandering samurai. Lately, he often dropped by Sopa Kihei's restaurant in Fukugawa. Jinya turned to the guys and said that if the demons bother them, they can turn to him for help. For them, he will make a discount on his services. Natsu and Zenji were outraged and asked the guy that he was going to charge them money for something like this. The guy replied that yes, of course. They will see each other again. Natsu waved to the guy, but then Zenji remembered something. He called out to the guy and asked him if he knew how many temples there were in Yanak. Jinya replied that yes, he knows that. Zenji said that one of them is called Mizuho. The caretaker died there recently, and now it's empty. People say that women's screams are heard from there every night. There are rumors that a demon has settled in this temple. At that moment, Moscow was trying to catch up with the monster and keep track of where it lives. The man said that demons are born much easier than he thought. Jinya said that everything is not as simple as it sounds. Natsu's emotions were strong enough to recreate the demon. The man caught his breath and thought that he should be in this direction. Suddenly, Moscow heard the screams of the monster and he immediately turned in their direction. The man saw a demon in the sky, and there was a woman in his paws. Mosuke was afraid for her. The monster was very fast, but Mosuke managed to notice that it flew inside the building. Masuke ran there and looked at the inscription. It said it was Mizuho Temple. Mosuke was saddened and thought that he had finally found him. The man understood that this was the very place where his hatred was stored. Masuke thought about how both of his parents were demons. He practically doesn't remember them, and they also left him without a name. But still, the man understood that he did not blame them for this. Genji replied that everything was clear to him now. In order to remain true to themselves, demons are willing to sacrifice anything, no doubt. Being a demon, he can understand this on the level of instincts. However, the man does not think that such a lifestyle was to his liking. Moscow was comfortable living like a human being. He didn't mind giving up once-in-a-lifetime thrills and fantastic adventures in favor of peace and quiet, and an ordinary wife was enough for him too. Once upon a time, Moscow and his wife sat on the porch and chatted sweetly with each other. But then the man realized that he needed to talk to his wife about a very serious topic. Masuke told the girl that he is actually a demon. But his wife asked the man what was the big deal. The girl said that first of all, she does not love a demon or a person. She loves Moscow. The man was very pleased that his beloved woman reacted in this way. Mosuke thought how calm and peaceful and ordinary and quiet life was with her. It got really cold outside. So Zenji told the samurai that he would let Natsu sleep and then he would take his leave. Jinya said it was fine. Just in case. He will continue to watch until dawn. Zenji thanked the guy for that. It was supposed to go on like this, but Tsujigiri decided otherwise and killed her. Meanwhile, Mosuke turned into a demon and he headed to the temple. He prepared a weapon to fight the demon. Moshe carefully went inside the temple and tried to find the monster. He looked over the wall and saw Tsujigiri sitting on the floor and munching. He was eating someone's body. Moscow saw that the monster had bitten off the man's hand, and it fell to the floor. Moshe took a step to the side, and the floorboard began to creak under his feet. The monster immediately heard it, but he did not see Moscow. The monster picked up his hand from the floor and ate it too. The samurai accompanied Natsu and Zenji, and he thought that the girl was strong enough she had support. Everything should be fine in her life now. The monster was crunching bones, and Mosuke was looking at all this. Mosuke realized that this was the same demon that killed his wife. The monster was eating the body and saying that he needed to get back as soon as possible. The hatred in Mosku's body continued to increase, and he decided to act. Mosuke decided to attack the demon from behind while he was not seeing it. But the monster heard a creak and immediately turned towards the sound. This caused Mosuke to stop and freeze. Mosuke thought that he had heard him, and that was why he turned around. Mosuke tried to calm himself down and say that everything would be fine because the demon couldn't see him. But the monster came right up to Mosuke with its nose and sniffed him. Mosuke tried to hold on and not make a sound, but his legs were still shaking from fear. The monster realized that someone was standing right in front of him. Natsu screamed and asked the guy what she meant by that. The girl clarified with the guy that he was telling her to just go and kill herself. The samurai walked over to the demon's body and looked at it. Mosuke made a sound again, and Tsujigiri took off. It went right through Mosuke's body and left a huge hole in it. Mosuke started screaming in pain and he fell to the floor exhausted. The monster looked at his paw and saw Mosuke's blood there. At that moment, Mosuke thought that he had not even had time to react in any way to his attack. Mosuke was shaking in pain and said he was so sorry. Mosuke thought he was going to die that way. It was very bad, because Mosuke's hatred no longer affects him. Mosuke noticed that the monster was paying attention to the half-eaten human body again. He took it in his paws and began to finish it. Not far from him, Mosuke was lying and bleeding. Suddenly, the monster made a loud belch because he had finished eating the body. Mosuke saw that the monster had passed by him and was heading towards the exit of the temple. Suddenly, the demon turned to the man again and told him to give him his daughter. Mosuke thought that the path of all-consuming hatred leads to destruction. Mosuke was worried that he didn't even consider it necessary to finish him off. The man thought he was so pathetic. It was so easy. Meanwhile, Jinta came to the temple and said that this was the right place. He took up his sword and carefully began to study the situation. Jinta looked inside the temple and saw that no one was there anymore. But then he noticed the barely alive Mosuke, who rested against a pillar. Jinta went up to Mosuke and saw that he was very ill. Mosuke was upset by the guy's arrival, because he didn't want Jinta to see him like this. Jinta asked Mosuke what Tsujigiri had done. Mosuke replied that yes, it is. He found a woman there. That damn monster killed his wife. Jinta thought that he was the one who ate women. Mosuke turned to Jinta and said that he had one last request for the guy. Jinta said he could voice it. Mosuke handed the guy his weapon and asked Jinta to avenge his wife. Tears appeared in Mosuke's eyes. He was very sad that it ended like this. Jinta frowned and said that as expected. Jinta replied that yes, he would. However, in return, Jinta wants Mosuke to give him his power. Mosuke replied that he would certainly do so. Mosuke confessed that he is his friend, so if it helps him, he will gladly share his strength. She asked the guy to use her for his needs. Jinta thanked Mosuke and said that his request would be fulfilled. Mosuke closed his eyes and Jinta said that now he would take away his ability. Jinta touched Mosuke's face with his huge hand. Meanwhile, the monster was thinking about the fact that there was a lot of blood around him and a human corpse. All this is his very first memory. From that moment on, he was looking for someone. But still, the monster did not understand who he was looking for. When the monster climbed onto the roof, he saw a man. The demon thought that if it was a human, then it must be killed. The guy thought that even though Natsu had rejected his existence, it was able to partially retain its shape. It's also refreshing for the monster. He was born a demon to destroy people. As usual, he killed that man yesterday. But the monster himself did not understand why he was doing this, which is why he feels this anxiety. He is filled with irritation. He was jumping on roofs and looking at people. The monster understood that he needed to find him, but he didn't understand who exactly. The monster had to hurry back. The monster did not know what to do or where exactly to hurry. The monster understood that he could not return in this form. Suddenly, the monster noticed Mosuke and his wife. The man said goodbye to her and said that today was fun. The girl admitted that she did too. She asked the man to be careful on the way home. Mosuke replied to the girl that it was good, and she should take care of herself. The monster looked at the woman and thought that she had a cute kimono and was very beautiful herself. The demon killed the girl and dragged her to his favorite place. Even if the demon could be born from Natsu's emotions, Jinta felt that it wasn't enough. This means that there is something complementary to them. The monster devoured the girl and said it was such a mess, but that was the only way he could come back. He's going to have to eat a lot more of these women. At that moment, Jinta met with Tsujigiri and said that only he would return to his lair even after he was discovered. It seems that if he is in the form of a beast, he thinks like a beast. The monster turned back, but he didn't see anyone there. The demon heard someone running near him. It was Jinta who took advantage of Mosuke's abilities, and he chopped off the monster's paw. The monster immediately growled in pain. The monster began to turn around and look at who attacked him, but he didn't see anyone. This began to anger the monster, and Jinta, who returned to his real form, asked the demon that something was wrong with him. The monster began to get even angrier. Jinta asked the monster what he was angry about now. The guy called him weird. Jinta noticed that there was a woman's body lying behind the monster. The guy thought that there were feelings of someone else in this demon. The monster did not wait, and he rushed towards the guy. Jinta thought that the demon was really fast. Due to the ability to make jerks in the air, it was quite difficult for the guy to dodge attacks. Suddenly, the monster swung at the guy and tried to grab him. But Jinta jumped up from his seat and the demon did not touch him. Jinta ended up behind the demon, and the guy said that this time the monster was confronting both of them. The monster turned around again and pointed its paw at the guy, but he failed to grab it again. Suddenly, Jinta turned into a demon. The monster asked the guy what he was also devouring. The monster started howling and saying that he needed to get back as soon as possible. The monster took off and headed towards the guy, but Jinta took a step to the side. Because of this, the monster failed to capture him. The monster rushed past the samurai, and then Jinta remembered Zenji's words that the demon had killed his father's wife. The guy thought that there was another woman here in Soya who could become a demon. Jinta managed to swing his sword and cut off the monster's hind leg. The demon fell to the ground and began to growl loudly in pain. Jinta said that his ability, which will destroy the monster, is called invisibility. The monster stretched out his hand to his leg and tried to reach it with the last of his strength. Jinta told the demon that if it wasn't for hatred, Mosku's blade would have reached the monster faster. The monster continued to reach for the leg, but Jinta thought that he was so worried about it. The guy approached the demon and cut off the monster's head. The guy said that if his words were clear, then he asked the monster to answer. He kills men and kidnaps women, which is why the number of corpses doesn't add up. As Mosku said, the monster eats women. It makes sense that he really is a Tsujigiri. Jinta thinks he needs to be told about it. They haven't seen each other for a long time. But in that case, the guy asked why he didn't eat Mosuke's wife. Jinta asked the monster who he was. The monster said he couldn't live without his body. If he doesn't have it, there's nothing he can do. Jinta thought about how it seemed to him that Tsujigiri wouldn't say anything. The guy thought that Mosuke's wife had been kidnapped a month ago. The body was found 10 days later. And according to rumors, Tsujigiri appeared only a few days ago. This means that most likely, this demon did not kill Mosku's wife. Jinta asked me to tell him my name one last time. The monster said his name was Hatsu. Jinta lifted the monster's head and looked into its eyes. Jinta told the demon that he had asked earlier, wanted to know if he was devouring too. The guy replied that yes, this is the reality, just like a monster eating women. Only Jinta said that he absorbs demons. The guy admitted that, to be honest, he doesn't remember him. The guy could not even imagine that he would see his mother in such a form. The guy told the monster that he would now take away his ability. Hatsu began to groan in pain. Jinta said that the monster has the ability to accelerate. This is an instant increase in speed. The ability can be used in the air and even push off from it. Jinta replied that he understood everything. This skill seemed very useful to him. Suddenly, Jinta saw one of the demon's memories. It was a girl who said she was in a lot of pain. She was raped by men and then thrown into the water. The girl said she despised them. Jinta returned to reality and looked at his hands. It became clear to the guy that these were her last memories. Jinta thought that it was the woman killed by Tsujigiri, born of hate, looking for the man who did it. She tried to devour girls in order to restore her desecrated body. Jinta told the demon that before he disappeared, he asked him to tell him his name. In the last seconds of his life, the monster said that he needed to save his body and he needed to hurry. Jinta told the monster that she was trying to get back to the happiness she once had as soon as possible. Even if that was the case, there was no turning back for her. Jinta left the temple and went back. In the morning, he came to one of the houses and a woman called out to him. She asked the guy that he was an acquaintance of Mosuke. Jinta replied that yes, it is. The woman said he had been gone for several days. She asked the guy if he knew where Masuke had gone. Jinta did not answer the woman and just lowered his eyes. The woman understood everything. Mosuke has been so depressed since his wife Hatsu died. The guy's eyes widened. Jinta asked the woman again that Mosuke's wife's name was Hatsu. The woman asked the guy that he didn't know about it. That was his wife's name. The woman said that Hasu loved him so much. Even during the conversation, she often left with the words that she urgently needed to return to Mizuka. Jinya replied to the girl that no, he didn't mean that. Instead, the demon continued to ask for his daughter. The woman said that such a misfortune had happened to her. Jinya remembered that Hatsu had said that she needed to get back as soon as possible. The guy thought that she was looking for her killer, but in fact it was not so. Jinya realized that the one the demon was actually looking for was Mosuke. The guy stopped himself and thought that it didn't matter anymore. Whatever the truth, what's done is done, and no amount of effort can bring back the past. The woman asked Jinya what was in his hands. The guy replied that it was sake. Initially, he wanted to drink it with Masuke. Jinya asked the woman what she thought about taking this bottle to Hatsu's grave. The woman replied that of course they could do it, but she had never drunk alcohol. But Jinya handed the woman a bottle and said that there was nothing wrong with that. Jinya thought that if he had stayed alive, he would definitely have returned to her. The guy told the woman that it was a gift. He was sure she would appreciate it. The guy turned to Mosque and said that they would see each other again. Meanwhile, night fell and two guys went hunting. This started to annoy Jinya, and he bared his teeth. One of them said he thought everyone had calmed down. He asked his friend what their next goal was. The guy replied that they might kill some teenager this time. The guy said that people are so stupid. They really thought that it was all the work of a demon. He was told that it was great. They can now do anything and just blame the demons for it. His friend agreed with him. The guys came to the bridge and one of them said that the last one was the best. His friend replied that they really had more fun when they were rebellious. The guys laughed at the fact that the girl resisted and shouted her husband's name, Mosuke, to the very end. Suddenly, one of the guys had his head chopped off. She fell to the floor and his friend heard it. When the man saw the decapitated friend, he screamed loudly in fright. But he was next. He was cut in two by a single sword stroke. It was Jinya who destroyed both guys. Jinya approached the corpses of the murderers and addressed Masuka. The guy told the man that he had fulfilled his request. Jinya stabbed Mosco and walked off the bridge. The guy held up his sword, and he asked to be forgiven for such an injustice. After all, everyone lives in the present. Tsujigiri's terrible actions ended with the last two victims. Both perpetrators and the others who disappeared have never been found. Rumors of a demon and disappearances turned into a ghost story, which is still being talked about. In a book called The Chronicles of the Wandering Spirits of Yamato, published in the late Edo period, she was vaguely recorded as an invisible temple demon. The story of the invisible temple demon. The story of the invisible Tsujigiri who cut off people's heads. But none of the people knew what was really true. That's how the end of spring came. Meanwhile, the man woke up and did not understand where he was. The man asked where he was. He heard the child's voice. The child was saying a number, okay. 1. Look at the other side. 2. The house is getting far away. 3. Never to see my mother and father again. 4. A journey down the road to hell. The man was surprised, and he thought they were fireflies. Jinya was able to destroy the monster with just one blow. The child continued to count 5, somewhere far away. 6, longing for the past. 7, aqua. The tears are drying up. The child was playing with a ball, and at the last phrase, the girl picked it up. The girl said that was the end of the song. As a result, he can no longer return home. Meanwhile, in the 6th year of the Kei era, in the autumn of 1853, the man was walking down a small street through all the houses. He was the eldest son and heir of the Miura family, a vassal of the shogun's secretary of the Edo shogunate. His name was Miura Naotsugu Arimori, and he was 18 years old. Natsu came to Soba's restaurant, and Otu brought the girl tea. Natsu thanked the man for this. Otu asked the girl that she was sad because the kind gentleman was not in this place, but Natsu replied that she had not come there to see Jinya. He gradually disappeared, and the samurai asked him to finally retire. Otu replied to the girl that everything was fine. He told the girl's information that the kind gentleman was one of the candidates for his father-in-law's place. Natsu asked the man what he meant by being in a relationship with Ofu. The man said that this was not the case so far. He prefers to think that they are quite friendly to each other. The man was wondering if they would have something more. Natsu drank tea and said she understood him. The girl asked the man where Ofu was now. Otu replied that she delivers the order to the client from the capital, who orders from them periodically. Natsu said she feels like their restaurant is getting more and more customers. At that moment, Ofu came into the restaurant and said she was back. The girl greeted Natsu. Oto also greeted the girl and asked her if she got into any trouble. Ofu replied that she was no longer a child, so he shouldn't worry about her so much. Oto asked the girl not to be stupid. Even if she's an adult girl, her father still can't help but worry about her. Ofu sighed heavily. Ofu told Natsu that they both have a hard time with their overprotective father. Natsu supported the girl. Natsu said she would leave the check here. Ofu asked the girl that she was already leaving. But he never came. Meanwhile, Zenji, Jinya, and Natsu were on a small street. Natsu asked Ofu not to start talking like her father. Natsu headed for the door and told the guys that she would probably go. But then the girl collided with a guy at the entrance and crashed into him head-on. It was Natsugu, and Natsu apologized to him. But then the girl noticed his sword, and Natsu immediately realized that he was a samurai. Natsu bowed down to the guy and said that she was very sorry. She apologized to him for her actions. But Natsugu told the girl not to worry. After all, he should have been more careful himself. The guy also apologized to the girl. Natsugu smiled sweetly at Natsu, and she was very surprised. Oto looked out from behind the girl, and he told Natsu that everything was fine. Oto said it was Naotsugu. He is a samurai, but he is known as a kind man. Natsu started looking from Oto to Natsugu. The guy replied to Oto that he was very flattered, but in any case, he told Natsu that everything was fine and she didn't have to worry about it. The man turned to the samurai and said that he really helped them out this time. He turned to Lady Natsu and asked her to tell him about it too. The girl pouted slightly, but still she agreed with Zenji. Natsu bowed her head to the samurai once more and apologized. A fool brought Natsugu keke soba and asked him to enjoy the dish. The girl told the samurai that she thought he was a little depressed lately. The girl asked if there was something wrong with the guy. Naotsugu thought about it and asked Ofu if he could tell her something. The guy shared with the guys that he is an older brother, Naotsugu Saranaga, and 6 months ago he disappeared. Ofu and Atu immediately began to remember the guy with that name. Ofu told the guy that it couldn't be true. He is the eldest son and the head of the family. She asked Natsugu how a brother could be more mature than him. Natsugu replied to the girl that everyone was talking, even her father and mother. They replied that he never had an older brother, but Natsugu himself was definitely sure that he had an older brother. The guy asked if he was just going crazy. Atu turned to Natsugu and asked him not to worry so much. He asked me to enjoy the food until it got cold. Zenji told the girl that if she started behaving like that again, then that demon would reappear in this world. Natsu rudely asked the man to shut up. Natsugu's brother disappeared when the days got warmer and this year's spring came. Natsugu was looking for him everywhere. Spring became summer, and summer became autumn, but to no avail. He couldn't do anything. Natsugu didn't understand why no one remembered him. Afu turned to Natsugu and said that maybe it was none of her business. But what did he think about her introducing him to someone who could help? Natsugu asked the girl what kind of person she was talking about right now. Afu replied that there was one guy in mind who could do it. He kills demons with just a sword. They even call him Yasha in these parts. Suddenly, the guys in the restaurant heard that they had another guest. It was Jinya, who asked for one from the doorstep. A third year smiled sweetly and said that the dish would be served now. The guy sat down at the table and Ofu brought him a dish. The girl apologized for waiting. Jinya told the girl that she had become a more experienced waitress than she had been before. Ofu replied that of course she was studying every day. The girl asked Jinya how he was doing. Natsu awkwardly turned to Jinya and thanked the guy. Jinya replied that autumn is the time when the golden flowers of the fragrant osmanthus bloom. The guy asked the girl that he had learned a lot too. Afu replied that it was right. His training was bearing fruit. Jinya shared with the girl that he was interested in studying flowers. Now they attract his gaze. A third Rank told the guy that his face had also become friendlier lately. Jinya asked the girl if that was really the case. He didn't notice it himself. Afu said that they had learned the flowers of all seasons, and now she would teach him the ones related to fairy tales. Jinya replied that he would try to remember them. Natsugu was listening to the guy's conversation at that moment. A third said that she also wanted to discuss something with him. More precisely, someone has a request for the guy. Natsugu ran up to the guys and asked them to forgive him for interrupting their conversation. Jinya looked at the guy questioningly. When Naotsugu told him everything, Jinya replied that his job really was to destroy demons. Natsugu asked the guy if he could hire him to solve a mystery. Jinya replied that it was a little different. All he knows how to do is kill demons. Solving mysteries in general is not his specialty. The girl told him that she would try to think it over, although she can't promise that she'll get better right away. Jinya asked Natsuga not to overestimate his expectations. Natsuga replied to the guy that he understood everything. Jinya turned his attention to Otu and Ofo, who were praying that he would agree to the proposal. Jinya tensed up and told Naotsugu that he thought he should at least find out what his problem was. Naotsugu was very happy about this. Natsugu asked Jinya if they could meet again another day. The guy apologized to Natsugu and said he had to get back to work. Natsugu told the guy that he would also like to bring something and show him. After a while, Naotsugu left the restaurant and Afu thanked him for visiting. Ato was pleased with Jinya's agreement, and he told the guy that he thanked him from the bottom of his heart. The man apologized to the samurai for disturbing him. Jinya replied that it was okay. He doesn't have any other assignments yet anyway. It could also be a trick of a demon. Jinya asked Otu why they were both so worried about it. Alto replied that he was one of their regular customers, so it makes perfect sense to want him to be happy. The guy said they just need to tell the guy to destroy this demon for them. The samurai looked at the girl to see what decision she would make. Natsu remembered that she hadn't asked the guy what his final duty was to her father. She was just curious to find out. After a while, Natsugu headed for the exit of the house, and the guy was stopped by his mother. The woman asked Natsugu that he was also leaving today. The woman said she was tired of telling him that he was the eldest son of the Miura family, so he doesn't have an older brother. It was very hard for Natsugu to listen to this. The guy turned around and his mom said that she had already heard that he was wandering around the red light district and the slums to find him. Natsugu replied that if she wanted him to stop going there, then let him search. Natsugu walked out the door and his mom called out to the guy several times. She asked Natsugu to stop right now and not go anywhere. Natsugu's mother is more conservative and stricter than his father when it comes to his involvement in the samurai family. A samurai would gladly shed his blood to the last drop for the sake of the shogun, as their mother had taught them. She taught them honor, honesty, bravery, benevolence, and etiquette. While Natsugu diligently listened to his mother's instructions, his brother Sadanaga did not accept them. Sadanaga told Natsugu that he had been thinking lately that people don't live for their family or home. Family and home exist for people. Jinny thought about it and replied that he would not say that he would become mature once he had lived long enough. But after experiencing the loss of certain things, he is able to understand a little more. Sadanaga understands the essence of the phrases os, was sake of the family, or for the sake of the shogun. However, he asked Natsugu if there was not something equally important, or even more. Sadanaga said he was sure Natsugu didn't understand his words, judging by his face. Natsugu thought that, unlike him and the rest of the samurai, his brother preferred to always be himself, rather than cater to the expectations of customers. His stubborn and freedom-loving character inspired Natsugu. He always admired him and looked up to him. Meanwhile, Natsugu and Jinya met each other. Natsugu asked the guy that he said he was a wandering samurai, didn't he? He comes from a samurai family. Jinya replied to the guy that he didn't. He pointed to the Jinya sword and the guy told Natsugu that he once lived in a Tadaraba place in the mountains. There were a lot of bandits and a lot of problems. So authorized persons were allowed to carry swords with them. Jinya said Kuji had given him a permit to carry a gun. The guy thought it was a long time ago. Suddenly, Naotsugu asked the guy that he wasn't from Kadono by any chance. The guy shared that he wanted to fulfill a duty that he had neglected earlier, since there was no other choice. Jinya was very surprised by the guy's question. Jinya said he was surprised that Natsugu had heard of this place. Natsugu replied that it was just a random guess, given the iron scabbard and his mention of Tataraba. Natsugu was ashamed to say, but he has quite unusual interests. He studies everything about swords. It was his hobby. Natsugu added that people say Kadono swords are unique because of their iron and elegant scabbards in their simplicity. But his sword is quite intricate. Jinya replied that it was originally a sacred sword that was created for the shrine. Natsugu said it sounded logical then. Natsugu asked the guy if he could find out the name of the ball. Jinya replied that it was Yurai. Natsugu said that there are rumors that this is a Kadono sword capable of wounding even demons, and soon it was called Oni Yurai. That's probably where the name came from. Natsugu asked Jinya if he could watch him unsheath it, but Jinya replied that no, it was impossible. Jinya was quite serious. He asked Natsugu what he was saying, No one knew his brother. Natsugu replied that yes, both mother and father claim without a doubt that he is the eldest son. When he asked people about it, they also hadn't heard of him. Jinya thought about the fact that he had a brother that no one remembered anything about. It was a really unusual situation for him. Natsu thought about Jinya's words. The girl said that she did not understand anything at all. Suddenly, Oto came up to the guys. He asked if they thought such important conversations were worth having in a place where there were no people around. Why did they decide to meet again at this place? Jinya asked if that was the case, if his restaurant wasn't the perfect place for that. Oto was surprised by the guy's response. Afaru asked her father to collect his thoughts. The man replied that everything was fine. It was his future son-in-law, he was not offended. Afu asked the guy what he was saying. Jinya replied that he was just joking. The guy decided that they should discuss everything in this place, since Afu and Otu were so worried about him. Jinya asked Afu something was wrong. The girl replied that no, everything was fine. The girl said it was great that they could joke about them so freely. Jinya thought that she was treating him like a child again. Jinya asked the guy when his brother disappeared. Now Tsugu said that in the early spring of this year, around the first days of March, Jinya realized that this was about a month before the incident with Tsujigiri. Jinya asked Natsugu if he had noticed anything strange about him before. Jinya said that in general, he means that respecting your parents is very good. Natsugu replied that no, it didn't seem to be anything special. He didn't have time to notice anything, as he had already disappeared. But then Natsugu remembered that his brother had reported something before he disappeared. He said he was going to see his daughter, and there were flowers in his room. Natsugu handed Jinya the paper and asked her to look at it. Natsugu said it might be some kind of clue, so he dried them before they wilted. Jinya looked at the flowers and asked Fu what daffodils they were. Fu nodded. The guy thought that the petals were small. Natsugu said he found the flowers immediately after they went missing. He had never been interested in flowers, and it seemed strange to him. Natsugu said that no one else comes into this room, so he decided that his brother left them himself. Jinya said Miura, he would like to visit them personally. The guy thought that these were the flowers that his mother loved. After these words, Jinya left the guys and they watched him go. The ball that Dad gave him. Their gentle smiles on their faces. These are all his happy memories. However, there is no way back home anymore. Jinya met Natsu, and the girl asked what he was doing in broad daylight. Jinya asked Natsu what it was like. The girl was sure that he was definitely unemployed. Jinya replied that his work starts in the evening. The girl asked if it was true. He really likes Izobi or something. Jinya replied that it could be said that way. Jinya asked the girl what about her. Wasn't she going somewhere? Natsu awkwardly replied that it wasn't that she was walking. She was just walking around thinking about her plans for today. Although the girl thinks it's time for her to go, Jinya said that if she was going to Kihei, then he would go with her. He planned to go there and have lunch anyway. Natsu asked the guy that he was still hungry, but the girl agreed to it. Juzo came up to the guys and said that Jinya had already left. Zenji replied to the man that yes, but then he asked his father if he shouldn't have been there to see him off. He's done so much for them. They walked down a small street. Natsu looked at Jinya for a second. And then the guy asked the girl when their wedding ceremony would be with her and Zenji. Out of surprise, the girl stumbled and fell. Jinya asked Natsu if she was okay. The girl asked Jinya why he asked such a question so suddenly. Jinya replied that she was already 16 or 17 years old. Wrong. It's time for her to get married. Natsu asked the guy why he was ruining that she would be with Zenji. The girl was sure that this would never happen. Jinya replied that he thought Juzo would be very happy if it turned out to be him. Natsu replied that Zenji was more like an older brother to her, and her father said that he would support any decision she made. Natsu asked the guy what about him. It's not time for him to get married himself. Jinya said he was already 31 years old. The girl was in shock. Jinya said that he was unlikely to find a girl who would like the wandering samurai and what he does. Natsu said he was probably right. Juasa replied that there was no need for that. He knew from the very beginning that he would do his duty. Natsu said that now they are both single. Jinya replied that yes, it was so sad. Jinya and Natsu came to Soba's restaurant, and Otu greeted them. Jinya ordered a cake of soba and Natsu joined him. Oto turned to Afu and said that she would lose if she didn't try. The girl asked her father what he was talking about. Afor brought the guys their orders. Afu asked Jinya what was new with that case. The guy replied that he was going to visit Miara that evening. Afu said that everything is clear. She thanked the guy again for his help. Jinya asked the girl that she and Natsugu were close. A Fu replied that he comes to them quite often, so they communicate a lot. He is also very kind to her. He is a sincere and considerate person. Natsu asked of Fu what she said about that incident. A Fu replied that, yes, she'd also met him once. Zenji replied to the man that he seemed to have treated him with great respect from the very beginning. The man asked Giso that there was some reason for this. Natsu replied that she would not call it an acquaintance. He was quite modest and reserved for a samurai. Oto said that he is completely different when it comes to swords. Natsugu is a maniac of swords. His gaze immediately changes when this topic is discussed. Atsu asked the guy to take a look at this. He handed him a hairpin on a piece of cloth. Natsu asked what Kogai was. Oto said that the Miura family is a vassal of the shogun, and they have something similar. They just gave it to him. Even when he gives gifts to other people, it has to do with swords. Natsu said it was so artfully made, and the relief carving of wisteria is so elegant. The girl assumed that the manufacturer was quite experienced. Atu said that he was an ordinary restaurant owner. The man did not understand what he should do with it. Odo said if you talk to him, it's either about something very serious or about swords. Even his mother scolds him for it. Jiaso asked the man not to be so stupid. Jinya asked Otu that he knew his mother. Atu said that he had met her several times. Ato asked the guy what could be given to him by Kogai. Jinya asked if it wasn't a gift. He can't accept it. Oto said that everything was fine. There's no point in him keeping it as a decoration. Anyway, he doesn't need it, so it would be great if Jinya took it. Jinya didn't want to do that, but he gave up and said he would keep an eye on him for Otu's sake. A few apologized to the guy for her father. Sometimes it's hard with him. Jinya said he was used to it. Meanwhile, Jinya was waiting for Natsugu to finish his business. Natsugu said that he had come after all. Natsu couldn't even stand on her feet. The girl looked at the demon and thought about what she should do. He asked Zenji which parent would underestimate their child. Natsugu invited him to come inside. Jinya looked round and they went into the house. Natsugu's mother met them there. The woman asked her son that he had brought guests to the house. Jinya introduced himself and apologized to the woman for such a sudden visit. The woman asked the guy to make himself at home. The woman asked Natsugu to tell her who Jinya was. Jinya himself said he was from Kadono. The woman asked what he was saying about Kadono Kuznetsov. The guy replied that he was. Natsugu said that Jinya is his like-minded friend, whom he recently met. He brought him to spend the night, have a drink and chat. The woman said that everything was clear. Natsugu said they would be in their room. The woman thanked Jinya and said that her son has been causing a lot of problems lately. It had been a long time since she had seen him so happy. For a mother, nothing could be better than this. Zenji was surprised to ask his father what he had just said. Josho replied that he needed to hurry up and get back to his work. He's a salesman. When the guys came into the room, Jinya told the guy that he had a wonderful mother. The guy asked that Natsugu found these flowers in Sadanagi's room when he disappeared. Jinya asked that his brother had informed him that he was going to visit his daughter. Natsugu said that was true. He assumes that his daughter may be a demon. Jinya said that Sadanaka was imprisoned in another world, separate from theirs. Natsugu asked what these daffodils were from the place where the demon took him. But such flowers can be found anywhere. Jinya replied that that was why he wanted to see his brother's room. Maybe there are other clues there. Naotsugu said he would take him there. Jinya asked the guy to go there first, without him. The guy told Naotsugu that he would catch up with him. He just needs to wait for him in the room. Naotsugu asked the guy how he would know where it was located. Jinya asked him not to worry, but Zenji was only outraged by this. Natsugu said that, then he would go first. Jinya said it was possible that nothing would happen if he was present. Jinya became invisible and thought that he was already used to his abilities. Natsugu went into his brother's room and began to inspect it. Natsugu thought that if his parents thought that he did not have a brother, then why was there nothing strange in this room for them? Suddenly, Natsugu smelled it. These were the daffodils. But for Natsugu, it became a very unpleasant smell and everything began to spin before his eyes. Naotsugu saw that someone had passed by him. The guy thought it was Jinya. When Natsugu raised his head, he saw his brother. Suddenly, Natsu turned to her father and awkwardly asked the man if she could ask him something. The brother told Natsugu that they would see each other later. The brother left the room and Natsugu immediately ran after. When Natsugu left the house, he realized that he was in a completely different place. Naotsugu thought that this was not their home. Naotsugu noticed his brother again and he immediately followed him. Natsugu heard the girl talking again. Farf, the first look on the other side. Second, the house is moving away. Third, never to see my mother and father again. Fourth, a journey on the road to hell. The fifth, somewhere far, far away. Sixth, longing for the past. Seventh, the tears are drying up. Naotsugu tried to call out to his brother, but he never answered him. Natsu asked the man if there was anything she could do to help him. She also asked the girl why she suddenly wanted to do this. Natsu replied that she was told to respect her parents. Yushuso sighed heavily and said that she didn't need to think about it. He asked the girl who told her that. The man asked his daughter to listen to him. He said that the greatest gratitude for parents that a child can express is not to die in front of their eyes. Gyuso admitted that at least it would be more than enough for him. At that moment, Jinya continued on his way. He thought that no one knew exactly when the rumors about the appearance of demons began to spread. However, there was another rumor. Zenji decided to support the girl and he told her that she was fine. Even if the demon was killed, she wouldn't die from it. Natsu replied to the man that she didn't. People said that in Edo, there is a yaksha who appears to exterminate demons. Meanwhile, 3 years after the incident in Sugai, the 6th year of the Kei era, in the spring of 1853, the girl stood near a small fence and looked ahead with horror in her eyes. There were many corpses of people lying on the ground in front of the girl. At Sobakihei's restaurant in Fukugawa, Edo City. The man asked that there was only bad news lately, constant worries about foreign ships, and also the problem of tsujigiri. The man prepared the dish and said that it was 1 order of kakesoba. The girl said it was clear to her. She went to the counter and picked up a tray with her ready-made dish. It was quite heavy. The girl was carefully carrying him around the restaurant, and at that moment, Jinya was sitting and waiting for him. She managed to carry the dish, and she put it on Jinya's table. The girl sighed heavily and apologized to the guy for waiting a long time for his order. The girl said that his kopa-soba is ready. The girl cried bitterly and said she was very sorry. These are indeed her true feelings. The man shouted at the girl, then she did a great job and did it. But Jinya biased that she had only brought him a dish. The man said about tsujigiri that as a man who has a daughter, he can't stop worrying. The man was definitely sure that the government really should take this more seriously. Jinya replied to the man that he probably shouldn't throw such words around. The man replied to the samurai that yes, he was right about that. He wouldn't want the store to close after only 10 days. Jinya was very surprised by this and asked the man again that it was only 10 days. The man replied to Jinya that yes, it is. It looks dilapidated because he bought it along with the furniture cheaply. Jinya replied that it was logical. The man said Jinya came to a dirty, abandoned store like this one. The man suggested that the guy must have a pretty unique taste. He asked the samurai if their soba was really that delicious. The girl turned to Otu and she asked the man why he was saying such things when it was so difficult for them to get customers. Jinya told Otu that he thought this dish was not bad, just a normal meal. Otu smiled and said that, as he sees it, the guy is quite straightforward. But still, he loves cooking, even though he knows he's bad at it. There's no point in him hiding the truth.